This episode of the podcast is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect yourself online with ExpressVPN, the VPN rated #1 by CNET, Wired, and countless others. And if you visit expressvpn.com/clearedhot right now, you can arm yourself with an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. This one is a no-brainer, people. Earlier this year, more than 100 Twitter users got their accounts hacked into, passwords, email addresses, phone numbers, and more, all taken from high-profile people like Joe Biden, Elon Musk, and even Mr. Kanye West. These kind of attacks are getting more frequent and more severe, and it's not just Twitter. There's Facebook, eBay, Uber, Adobe, Yahoo. They all have leaked data such as passwords, credit card info, and driver's licenses belonging to billions of users. Somebody can hack Joe Biden. Just imagine how easy it would be for them to hack you. That's why I personally use ExpressVPN to safeguard my personal data online. Like I said, this is a no-brainer. It's an app on my phone. I swipe the thing to the side. It activates. I pick where I want my server to be located, and I'm off and running. So it's a one-click, lightning fast, and it can work on up to 5 devices simultaneously. Your whole family can stay protected. The app funnels your data through a secure encrypted tunnel so that no matter what device you use, you can have peace of mind every time you use the internet. And according to recent reports, hackers can make up to $1,000 from selling someone's personal information on the old dark web, making people like you and me and everybody lucrative to targets. So stop messing around. I'm telling you, this could not be easier. If you visit expressvpn.com/clearedhot right now, you can arm yourself with an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. That is expressvpn.com/clearedhot. Visit expressvpn.com/clearedhot to learn more. This episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp, a sponsor that I am very grateful for because they are helping people with their mental health. If you're hearing this and there's something that is interfering with your happiness or it's preventing you from achieving your goals or anything in between, BetterHelp, HELP, is here to help you assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is a professional counseling service done securely online. Broad range of expertise available, which you might not have locally, depending on where you live. The service is available for clients worldwide, so in the modern technological world we live in, there are no barriers. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You're going to get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you won't have to sit in a waiting room, which for me is an uncomfortable experience. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if you need to. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and there is financial aid available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit betterhelp.com/clearedhot. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/clearedhot, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people are taking advantage of BetterHelp and the services that they offer that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Again, special offer for the listeners of Cleared Hot. You can get 10% off of your first month at betterhelp.com/clearedhot. This episode is also brought to you by Magic Spoon, who has been my snacking lifesaver for the past few months. I loved sweet foods when I was growing up. Specifically, I loved cereal. I would actually eat it with milk, without milk, a combination, everything in between. And usually I would like to eat it out of a coffee cup. And that doesn't have anything to do with this particular ad, but that's how I like to enjoy my cereal. And then as I got older and my metabolic engine slowed down, I started paying a little bit more attention into what was in what I consume, specifically carbs, sugar, unhealthy food sources. And I realized I need to tighten up my game. Snacking for me has always been the tough one, specifically late at night. Enter Magic Spoon. This is where they are saving my life. A delicious cereal, and I'm not joking when I say this. A lot of people have asked me, is it as good as I describe it? It is. And it's got no sugar, 11 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. Cocoa, fruity, frosted, blueberry. Get the variety pack. Try them all. They taste amazing. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. I have been mixing the frosted and the blueberry Okay, I'm not saying you should do that because I've also mixed the blueberry and the cocoa, actually in the frosted and the cocoa too. So explore the space. They're all good. Give it a try. Go to magicspoon.com/clearedhot to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code clearedhot at checkout to get free shipping. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, that's correct, any reason, if you don't like it because of the color of the box that it comes in, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That is magicspoon.com/clearedhot and use the code clearedhot for free shipping. I am telling you, if you have a sweet tooth, if snacking has been a weak link in your armor of your fitness and diet routine, which it has been for me, give this at least one try. You will not regret it. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Helix Sleep. And I tell you what, nothing augurs my life in more than not getting good rest. I know due to my traveling experience all over the world for many years, there's nothing worse than a terrible mattress. And in addition to that, there's plenty of things going on that could keep you up, whether it's a pandemic. Hopefully it's not politics anymore, even though there are still some people who are in it, hook, line, and sinker, but I digress. Maybe it's your love life. Maybe it's the drama of a TV show you like to watch before going to bed. I get it. If you are in the market for a new mattress, I cannot recommend Helix Sleep enough. And if you're unsure as to what type of mattress you want, don't worry about it. They have a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete, and it will match your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Helix knows that everybody's unique, so they have several different mattress models to choose from. Soft, medium, and firm, of course. Mattresses that are great for cooling you down if you sleep hot, or even a Helix Plus mattress for plus size folks. I took the quiz. It took legitimately 2 minutes. A mattress showed up at my house in a box that I was startled by how small it was. I actually remember looking at it like, there's no way there's a king-size mattress in there, but there was, and it has been amazing. So if you're looking for a mattress, if the quality of your sleep is bugging you, take the quiz. You order the mattress that you're matched to, and the mattress comes right to your door, shipped for free. You don't even have to go to a mattress store again. They are awesome, but you do not need to take my word for it. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ and Wired magazine. Go to helixsleep.com/clearedhot. Take that 2-minute sleep quiz, and they will match you to a customized mattress, and it will give you the best sleep of your life. 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but I wouldn't worry about that too much because you will. Helix is offering up to $200 off of all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for the listeners to the podcast. helixsleep.com/clearedhot. And lastly, this episode is brought to you by new sponsor, Theragun. And let me just tell you right now, I am fired up about this thing. I train hard. Maybe not comparatively to other people, but I feel like, I get it done. And let's just say I have a few miles on my body from my old job and my age and what it is that I do now. The Theragun is a game changer when it comes to my own personal recovery. And whether you're an elite athlete or you're a regular person just trying to get through the day, muscle pain and muscle soreness, muscle tension, it's a real thing. Theragun, for those of you who don't know, it's a handheld percussive therapy device that helps you release your deepest muscle tension using a scientifically calibrated combination of depth, speed, and power. And now it's as quiet as an electric toothbrush. 2.5 years into jiu-jitsu, let's just say I use my grip strength a little bit too much from time to time. I am constantly using this thing on my forearms or on my neck or on my traps. It's a lifesaver. I have been a fan of massage for quite some time, decades, and you don't always have the chance to do that. The Theragun for me is the perfect bridge. It allows me to release all of the soreness that I have in my muscles, which allows me to recover more and then train harder. If this sounds like something that could be useful for you, you can try Theragun for 30 days. And there is no substitute for the Theragun Generation 4 with an OLED screen, personalized Theragun app, and the quiet power you need. Starting at only $199. Go to theragun.com/clearedhot right now and get your Gen 4 Theragun today. That's theragun.com/clearedhot. One more time, theragun.com/clearedhot. This is a tool for recovery for me that is invaluable. Can't recommend it enough. And that's it. that is all I have on the business side of the house. Let's talk about my guest today. Two very good friends, Evan Hafer and Trevor Thompson. Evan Hafer, to some, is known as the founder of Black Rifle Coffee. To many, I am known as the original founder, but I'm not going to argue with Evan on this medium. All right, I'm going to let him have it. So, founder of Black Rifle Coffee, CEO, former Green Beret, former Central Intelligence Agency contractor, coffee aficionado, businessman, entrepreneur, love the guy to death. And then there's Trevor Thompson, who is a Renaissance man by all descriptions and definitions. Met him when we were serving in the military, jumped together on the jump team. We have skydived together. We've base jumped together. He was also a SEAL, specializing a little bit more in the SDV, or SEAL Delivery Vehicle realm. He's a fucking artist, an outdoorsman. It's ridiculous. And I love the fact he dives so deep on the things that he gets into. So I'm going to shut up now. You guys have heard us talk enough. Episode 157 with the men themselves, Evan Hafer and Trevor Thompson. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
All right, you cock wobbles. What do you guys want to talk about?
That's loud. Holy shit.
So what type of sponsorship package did Kyle Rittenhouse get from Black Rifle Coffee? Was it just a discount code, or was it a yearly sponsorship?
Wow, what a shitstorm. Woo. Talk about pissing off everybody in the country at one 48-hour loop.
How did you become aware of that whole thing playing itself out?
I woke up, I rolled out of bed Saturday morning. Well, hold on. Let me back this up a little bit, which is, I don't know why in the fuck anyone in their right mind wants to listen to me to begin with. Like
I find it entertaining.
I am literally wearing a shirt with a van on it that has a dream catcher and Matt Best riding an elk, a cobra, a wolf, and a desert scene. Like, when did I become somebody that people would even want to listen to outside of a couple different things, which is, I love to roast coffee. Like, I mean, I think that's fairly obvious.
And roast your friends.
Yeah. But I'm like, holy fuck. I don't know why they even want to hear what the fuck I got to say.
I feel the same way. I have a podcast. Not exactly sure why people tune in. I appreciate the fact that they do. However, I'm still surprised by it.
Yeah, so I rolled out of bed Saturday morning, and like it just a landslide of customer service inquiries and things of people just, what the fuck? Why are you guys doing this? And which there's one side of the country that thinks that it was like, the woke mob, and I'm like, no, it was just normal people going, this is super fucked up. Like, why are you guys sponsoring this?
Absent almost any accurate information.
Correct.
They were making that assessment.
So there were thousands of people making an assumption or some type of an assumption. And like, I had to correct that. It was super easy. I just was like, hey, we don't sponsor him. Like, ooh. I mean, seemed pretty cut and dry. It wasn't as if like we were sitting around in a boardroom. It was like me and Logan Stark, a couple fucking knuckle draggers. Like, we just got to make a statement, make sure everybody knows.
Dude, I knew shit was sideways when I checked my phone and there was an email, an all hands email that says, if you're contacted by the press. I'm like, what in the fuck is going on the internet?
Yeah.
You guys sent out an all handser?
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you guys just forward the press my phone number?
Yeah, we should have.
Because I hopped in on your personal thread. I had what I wanted to. I was looking for a chance.
I saw that.
To write into somebody and say, hey, just because you're an expert at eating ass doesn't mean you have to be an asshole. But I couldn't find the correct comment to attach that to. So instead, I just, some random comment. I was just
kind
like,
of fired for effect.
I was like, no, like this is bull. And people are like, well, you guys are just friends. And both of you can attest to this. I'm fucking harder on my friends than anybody else. Like,
yeah, way harder.
Oh yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I expect no quarter from my friends. I expect if I'm fucking up to be told that I'm fucking up. And God help you if you are my friend and you fuck up, because I will fucking eat you asshole
demolish.
first.
Like, I am afraid of one troll on the internet. There's one.
He's sitting
Andy.
across
He's sitting
the desk
across
right
from me.
now.
That's the one.
Live and in person.
I'm like,
And that's the thing. People are like, oh, you're just blinded. I'm like, I'm not blinded. Like, you guys, I mean, let's use the word that you use. You're telling me that I'm blinded? Could you even fucking find a mirror right now?
yeah. Well, people are like, well, these are just your friends. I'm like, okay, and those are the people that know me best. I mean, those are the people who know me best.
Those are the people that if I was doing something wrong would get a hold of me personally and
Right.
say, hey, Evan, you're being a total idiot.
Yeah, which is there's a good percentage chance that I'm being an idiot.
Yeah.
A good percentage of the time. Like,
And isn't that what the press is supposed to do? Don't they go to the people closest to that person to find out what the truth of the matter is? And then the second somebody speaks up,
Well-
like, no, back up. You're too close to ID this issue.
well, NPR, like, they screwed me, right? They put out this fucking
Oh yeah,
news article that was like,
man, they
Kyle
gen that up fast.
No, they did, and that's to be expected, right? Like, there's no love lost from me and the left. I mean, I've been in a fight with those guys for 5+ fucking years over everything. It's just one of those things where you're just trying to talk rationally to people, about what you're doing,
Stop
about what
yelling.
you do, and you can't get through. I mean, just
Yeah.
the name alone incites so much fucking.
Well, you guys are a Second Amendment company, which is what that conversation with my initial point degraded into, of people saying that I had lost the forest for the trees because you guys are all 2A. And I'll be the first to admit, guess what? Black Rifle is in the name.
Sure.
It's founded by veterans. It's a huge portion of their marketing. And my point back is, if the Second Amendment goes away, I'm pretty sure your coffee sales are going to be just fine.
Well,
Doesn't mean
I
you're not
think-
peripheral to the
No.
the Second Amendment community, which I would totally agree with. But let's be clear about what a 2A company is. In my mind, we're talking weapons and ammo manufacturer, company
Right.
like the NRA, a single issue organization. And I mean, I'm sure I could think of more for if I had more time to think about it. But those are direct 2A companies.
Yeah, they serve the exact industry, whereas the genesis of my company has always been.
We don't make guns.
Yeah, I make
Or gun
coffee.
parts, or ammo.
I was dragging around. Like, the funny thing is, this is actually make me audit, I think, a lot of the history and evolution of the company, which I think is a good thing, right? Where, as a guy that was slinging around carbines for the majority of my life for a profession, that's what I did, right? It's like I went from SF and then I went to the CIA for 9 years, and then I spent the last couple of years there just trying to teach people how to shoot more effectively, like in special operations guys, not like guys that hadn't thrown around carbines. So this was in my DNA. I love, part of the things that I really love is shooting really fucking fast. And I love race pistols and race rifles. Like, I remember back in the day, man, I was walking around SHOT Show before I had Black Rifle. I'd come out to look at new gear and things like that. And, just talking to people, because back then, nobody knew who the fuck I was, but there's my community, they're my people. And then the next or two years later, I was dragging around a duffel bag because I was roasting coffee, like 1 pound at a time. And I'd made a bunch of samples. And I was like, I was still teaching pistol carbine courses, roasting coffee and dragging around a duffel bag, handing out samples, trying to give this shit away to people.
It's a cool reflex.
Dude,
Do you want some coffee?
Yeah, they were like, get the fuck out of here, loser. Like, all these guys were like, get the fuck out of here, loser. Like, they're like, oh yeah, coffee, okay.
Real original name.
Real original douchebag, and they get the fuck out of here. And for me, I'm like, I was trying before any of this stuff just to basically have a business that combined two things that I really loved. And so without going into the entire genesis of, obviously you guys know, but it's like linking up with Matt and Jared and looking at what we were doing on the entertainment side, it was like, oh fuck, this is super funny, right? Like, this is really fucking funny. And all we were doing was just trying to make people laugh and fucking roast great coffee. That was it. And we were trolling other people to include like, you know, they weren't really necessarily called woke people, but we were just trolling people basically. And which was super fun. I mean, that was fun.
Still is.
Still is. Yeah, it still fucking is. You're right. But, you know, to answer your question, man, like to have this audit and kind of look at the genesis of this, and it's like we turned it more into a veterans-based company because it was one of those things where all of us were vets. We saw what was happening in the community. We really saw what was happening to every one of us. I mean, all of us are vets. So it just became more about how do we point this thing in the direction of doing good versus just making stupid videos, right? So because as actually a point as it was growing, we're like, we gotta fucking get our shit together, and we gotta point this thing at good, and really drive it forward for the betterment of our subculture and our people.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me because people always say, well, you know, you guys are a 2A company. And it's like, no, the company's 400 people. It's separate from me now, right? It's his own thing. And I'm a 2A guy. I don't think, you know, I'm not here to like flash my fucking 2A credentials. I don't think I have to, but it's weird for me because people are like, well, you guys are supposed to be, you know, chiming in on this. I'm like, dudes, we make dick jokes on the internet, like the equivalent of it, and we roast coffee. Like, go to your fucking, you know, NRA or some of these other organizations and then hold them accountable.
I think I was shocked the most by it, by one, the speed with which people developed a concrete opinion.
Yeah.
Like just the rapidness of being so incredibly sure of what had happened, absent really any concrete information. And
how much they were reaching out. I got some nasty grams.
Well, that and the expectation.
My dad did.
I'm like, so what in the fuck is going on?
The rapidity with where they, I think that's a word, rapidity. The speed with which they got to their opinion. And then two, the demands that, you know, like I was scrolling through your feed and people were like, answer this specific question.
Yeah.
In my terminology, it's like, who the fuck are you to demand that an individual, yes, you're the founder of the organization, but when did it get to a point where if I don't use the exact words that you want, and then I have to scroll through more and use the exact words that somebody else, like where did that level, I mean, that's a little bit of an entitlement attitude,
there's
I would say.
A significant amount of entitlement. So, you know, you've got a portion of the country that believes that if you don't do exactly what they say, they can hold you accountable through, you know, intimidation, basically. And it's like, this is my company. You know, I've heard so many false fucking bullshit in the last, like just the bullshit in the last week of, you know, people making videos about, you know, me, and there's all these conspiracy theories and all these fuck crazy things. I'm like, dudes, my wife makes fun of me half the time. Like, if you think I'm that sophisticated to do this, like my kids are reading faster than me at this point.
Or have enough time on your hands
or that
to be involved in any of this shit.
I have 2 little kids in a company with 400 people. I don't have time to like layer in and build my entire life. Like the conspiracy theory shit is like mind blowing to me because
throw one out there.
I'm a Democratic operative. I've heard this one. I'm like, okay, so I've spent my entire adult life.
I might have started
lying to. I just think it's like, dude. I was telling this to somebody. I was like, I've spent my entire adult life lying to everybody, to include my dad and everybody else, just to make a $500 donation.
just to be.
So I've hired 400 people.
The $500 Manchurian candidate.
And it's like, you know, we're not perfect.
The donation one brings up an interesting point, though, too, because why? This is something I don't understand.
Sure.
People who will drive their entire life philosophy based on only one issue. Like, why can't
it's
you?
a single issue voters, right? And that's
but
part
why
of the
can't you
problem.
be more nuanced than that?
It's
Why
crazy. I mean,
nuance. I use that word. I use that word responding to something, and some guy chimed in and goes, "That's a leftist word." And I'm like, you guys are pushing us into an Orwellian fucking nightmare. You can't use specific words, or you're going to identify with the left or the right. And you're like, oh my God.
Look, Evan, that's newspeak. You can't use that word.
See, exactly. And I'm like, I know it might be, and I'm not butthurt about it. I'm not even like trying to be defensive, because at the end of the day, it's something you can't really explain to people in 120 characters. It's something that I don't even want to attempt to explain. It's like the company is separate from Evan Hafer. Evan Hafer is the guy that, runs the company, but there's a lot of other people that help me run the company. There's Tom Davin over there, there's Matt Best, and there's all my other guys that are running this over here. And it's like, there's not a grand conspiracy. It's just a bunch of former mill guys roasting coffee and making stupid videos, trying to hire a bunch of vets. Like, it's not too sophisticated at the end of the day. It's really not. But anyway,
it caught me off guard. That whole situation did, for sure.
Oh, it caught me
and I wasn't on the
flat-footed.
receiving end.
It caught me flat-footed. I expected something like this from the left. I did. I was like, fuck those guys. You know what I mean? I expected something from that, because they're kind of notorious for just wanting to cancel specific businesses. I expected it. I think that was the one. I was like,
Okay.
hey, the 2A guys, those are my homies. Like,
What
oh my
happened?
gosh, especially after being part of the shooting community and the things that,
Or just the tactical world.
the tactical world. And I guess that's probably easier. And what I've realized, there are different layers of the community too, right? So there are the tactical guys and the professional shooting community.
And then there's the tactical LARPers.
You've got a ton of tactical LARPers. And I've come from a specific background it's more tactical guy driven. And I've never really been exposed to people that weren't, professional
Shooters.
I to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff and a lot of the people that we affiliate with, they're former team guys or SWAT guys.
Most of the guys in the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's most of the guys in the company. It's like Logan's a sniper, Matt's a ranger, Jared was an Air Force guy. He doesn't really count.
Yeah. 6th branch, just underneath Space Force.
We have our own 100-yard range with a steel guard, and I bought rifles for the entire company. It's like I've never expected that one to come. I was like, okay, well, I guess as you're digging out and kind of, which is it's another whole thing where they're trying to dox me on certain things, and they're like, oh well, you voted or you donated to this campaign or that campaign. I'm like, all right, sure, you guys got me. Okay, whatever.
It's unfortunately.
But
the
who
result
gives a
of-
fuck what campaign you donated
These guys
to?
do, because they're single.
Yeah.
They're single issue voters.
Well, it's because of this is the logical conclusion of what's been going on the last 8 or 9 months, which is if you don't believe in X issue, you are the enemy and you are voting for the other team. And I say team because it's turned into a sporting event.
So how did we get to here?
Well, I
Where
think,
it became that?
I think I saw this. I think I saw this coming several years ago. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of us saw some of this.
Well, yeah,
where
you're an
there was
operative,
yeah,
so-
exactly. Right?
At the team
'Cause
meeting.
it's the team meeting. No, I could kind of see some of this happening. I think social media is definitely it's
driving it.
increased the division in the company. It's also increased
Company or country?
Or sorry, country. It's
You don't own the whole fucking
I
country.
wish. Yeah. Well, no, I sure don't.
That's phase 2.
Yeah, phase 2. Phase 2, stand by. It's like I'm fucking
We're in pre-launch
Jack
currently.
Dorsey or Jeff Bezos. It's like, fuck, man, I live in the same house I've had for I don't know how fucking long. What are you guys talking about? No, I think it's a rapid acceleration, a gaslighting, and ultimately a group of people that are siloed and they're in their own echo chamber and they're spinning each other faster and faster and faster and faster. And they can't come out. They can't come out for a breath of fresh air and think, oh, well, I know my neighbor is a Democrat or a Republican, but it's my neighbor and he's pretty cool or she's pretty cool and I'm just going to hang out.
They
and
put
be
my
cool.
packages into my house when I'm gone.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
at a barbecue, believe it or not, I was at a barbecue and I wasn't wearing a fucking mask. I know, rule breaker.
Super spreader.
And a bunch of people from my neighborhood were together. We had our kids together. Actually, it was Halloween. Because we weren't doing trick-or-treating.
That's the one day you're supposed to wear a mask.
Yeah. Well, I know. I was wearing a
You're
Batman
so
mask.
contrarian.
I was wearing a
Like, not
Batman
today.
That
mask.
goes over the wrong part. I'm gonna wear the only mask that doesn't
Not
cover
today.
my nose or my mouth. Batman.
And my neighbors are more, of the
Left-leaning.
Left-leaning. But my other neighbor, he owns Alpha Munitions, and he's one of my best, I would say one of my better friends in the neighborhood. And we were sitting there, and we were all talking. Like, we were just like shooting the shit and kind of getting a little bit political, just the way things go. And Tom and I are pseudo preppers, for a lack of a better term. Like, we've got all the shit.
Things.
And we're like, hey, you guys, when things go down, don't worry. You can come to our house. We'll take care of you. Like, I know you guys are. I know you guys are. And it's so funny because we were talking about it where I have like a collection of Nerf guns at the house because I let my daughters play with Nerf guns because I'm not a douche. And nobody else at times in the neighborhood, they don't have Nerf guns to play with. So all the other kids, the boys, that are like 3 and 4 years older than my daughters, they'll be in the backyard playing in my backyard. And I'm like, my daughter's upstairs. I'm like, hey, fuck you guys doing? They're like, we're just playing Nerf guns. I'm like, let me get mine, fellas.
Oh no, Mr. Hafer's getting his gun.
And, but Tom and I were talking about it. We were talking about, our neighbors, and we all had the same interests, by the way. We want safety for our families. We want to raise our children. We want to educate them. We want, to ultimately create these incredible experiences for them. And oh, by the way, none of those guys we were talking to are anti-fucking gun guys. None of them. They're like, we get it. It's just like, they're a little bit intimidating. And Tom and I are like, hey, you can go to the range. You can get some training. Like, I know this guy. And they're like, yeah, I could see how you'd want one, especially when this fucking country is so crazy right now with, defund the police narratives. And, with COVID, we might not be able to respond in time. You got all this like lunacy happening. There's just a lot of people that are fucking keyed up, ready to go. But most people want the same things. Like, they just kind of want to be cool with each other. They want to raise their kids. And then you have fractions that are like, fuck it, burn it all down. And you're like,
Anarchy.
Hey man, it's pretty cool. It's a really good system. Like, I don't think we need to reset everything just yet.
It's an interesting time.
There's a lot of people screaming for anarchy and burn it down and revolution that have never seen it in person.
I don't know
Or
if
the
there's
result-
a lot.
or the result
I think
of.
they're
I think
just.
it's just a small, loud group of people.
I think they're just loud.
That's all it takes, though.
But yeah, I would agree with you. Like, I don't know about you guys. The people that I know who are the most capable of violence are the ones who are looking for it the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or people who have been in places where infrastructure collapses and you're in a 4th or 5th world country that's been ruled by the stick for fucking generations.
We talked about this in the truck.
Nobody's like, hey, we should build our system like that. The people who've experienced that, I don't know. The defund the police thing, do we really need to have this experiment?
No, I think
mean-
it's so
We're about to watch what's going to happen in
insane.
L.A.
It's insane to me.
What did
That
they do in
entire
LA?
conversation is
they
insane.
yanked sex trafficking, special crimes. I can't remember the rest of this, but they took the easiest ones to get off the table for the department. That's what they grabbed.
For budgetary wise and
Yeah.
reallocated?
So
I mean, I wish
Good luck.
I wish we lived in a world where everybody would just follow the rules because they're like, oh, the rules actually help our society continue to move forward. And I wish that we lived in a place where you didn't have to have people standing on the correct side of the rules. But we don't live there.
I go back and forth, right? I have this internal debate and dialogue with myself all the time. And, because I think I am a libertarian at heart in the essence of it, which is I think a smaller government is it gives people the ability to have more of their individual freedom, right? And then you give people more freedom, which means they have to assume more responsibility for their actions. And that's where I start to get stuck and kind of stalled out because humans don't want to take responsibility for their
I was
own
going to say they
actions.
probably want as much freedom as you'll give them, but they're going to have a problem with the second step.
They're going to have and as a society, we're all going to have a problem with this because you've got one group of people that are, and I wouldn't say one, you've got this really fucking eclectic 350 million people. You've got this loud group of people that are saying more government, more government, more government. They don't necessarily say more government. They say, you know, we need to fund these initiatives. And what they don't necessarily understand, and I think people that have worked for the government, such as the three of us, I don't want the government to run my healthcare. The VA has been part of my fucking healthcare life for, I don't know, the last 6 years. And then before that, it was military healthcare. I want everybody that is saying that to go try to get an appointment with the VA. Let them experience maybe looking to the DMV to get a fucking health. You know, everybody hates that experiment.
Yeah.
Or just ask any vet you might know or encounter if they've had a weird experience. You know, like
my buddy got a ball taken off when he had a fucking knee injury or something. Like, it was crazy. They took his fucking testicle.
So
He's
far,
like,
everything seems relatively logical and upfront.
yeah. Yeah.
I was just thinking maybe they fixed his knee while they were chopping his ball.
I'm surprised they didn't take both of them. Just like make him a eunuch.
they were being,
Hey man, this is going to help your knee. We're going to take these balls off you.
You know what's hurting your knee? Testosterone.
Let me go ahead and snip.
Yeah.
You're good.
Like, the horror stories involved with...
And sometimes people
They're
have great
insane.
experiences with the VA, but I would say it's not the norm. That would be the anomaly. I like the
Yes.
idea of having people experiencing trying to get a critical medical appointment via the DMV. That would be a good one.
I want people to just think of government service and then think, okay, if the DMV ran this is what the experience would look like.
If the DMV ran your grocery store.
Correct. That's what I want people to think about, because think about how fucked up that place is. And you've got people with their pockets of authority. When you have, I would say, you know, government employees that know they can't get fired, and they've got a position of authority with a job of repetition. You can treat people however the fuck they want.
Yeah.
They can't get fired. So,
And there's no benefit for them to increase their workput or put through, or, you know, their workload.
no. So it's like people are screaming for government-run healthcare, and it's like, that's not what I want. That sounds
We have it. A lot of
horrible.
us have it.
Yeah.
People will, I encounter the 9/11 was an inside government job often. And
I've heard that so many times.
first
It's
off,
just-
I laugh very heartily.
yeah.
Because I would love for the government to try to keep that a secret, to try to set that up.
Dude,
And
the government.
I think you and I have talked about this. I
Yeah.
mean, you worked at the agency where people think is the fucking genesis of Jason Bourne.
No.
He's not fucking there.
He's not there. I think the agency actually funds those movies just to give people the perception that they're really fucking squared away.
It's a bunch of Jason Bumbleheads running amok.
Dude.
And it's like, dude, the fucking government is not capable of loading those buildings with explosives
No.
secretly at fucking nighttime.
No.
Getting all that shit to happen, and you're telling me nobody's come forward? You've obviously never worked for the government.
No. What I always explain this to people. I'm like, you have to think about the American intelligence apparatus as a 18th century wooden ship. It floats, kind of works, but there's water coming in that bitch all the time. Like, it does not actually work.
There's some kid in the basement plugging holes all day.
Yeah, it's like,
Except
dude.
for maybe on the cyber side.
Yeah, no.
Damn.
I think there's some incredible people, and this isn't me.
He didn't
just
say the
placating
sales
this.
didn't work.
It's true.
There are aspects of the boat it works.
Or the navigational suite.
they work
Hey
like,
man, you got a sextant. That shit's pretty cool. That's like CAG. You know, Delta would be like the bathroom. It probably works because you can throw your butt over the edge. I don't know. I'm just saying.
You're spitballing here.
Yeah, I'm spitballing. I'm just throwing
throwing ideas.
I'm just throwing ideas out.
See if that sticks against the wall.
No,
The biggest thing that I think the government is capable of doing that people aren't paying attention to is the cyber side, the lack of security, and
That got out of hand really fast.
the lack of security, or just to have the ability to have information that the government is not taking a look at. That shit, I think, would absolutely surprise people. Like, I remember, my thoughts on this have shifted. I remember when Snowden first came out, I was like, you
Right.
fucking piece of shit.
yeah.
And now I look back and I'm like,
But we watched
Damn,
that here.
man.
We watched that here together, and both of us said the same thing. Like,
Well, yeah.
holy shit!
yeah. And if what I have watched is accurate, he did what he could to protect sources and make sure that people weren't burned. But he also burned the programs that were illegal in snooping on American citizens. It's like, you know what? I'm glad that he did that.
And if it's accurate, man, did that dude try his damnedest to get somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm at the bottom of this totem pole. Why am I trying to push it over? Like, somebody at the top should be
But nobody's
tipping this shit
that's,
over.
But that's the thing I really, and I've ranted about this for years, where there's no government accountability, right? The guys that were actually in charge of this, they never get fucking thrown in jail. They never get rolled up and put in jail.
They get
never
sent to a different 3-letter agency.
Yeah, different 3-letter agency. I think that's what people refer to as the swamp, right? It's actually mid and high level bureaucrats that's the swamp, and that's what people are up against. When we look at the power institutions and the institutions that continue to directly gain from that control, a lot of these people they really want to push their own agenda through their individual position. A great example of that is the ATF. Randomly, like a month or so ago, they just declared
the pistol brace?
The pistol brace. Just some fucking half-wit bureaucrat somewhere was like, oh, well, hey, the pistol brace is now illegal. This one's now illegal.
Turned them into SBRs, right?
Yeah. So they made 4,000 people criminals overnight. So some guy with a fucking stamp.
This one.
Bang.
Let's discuss
Please.
this one. I'm not saying that the ATF, I'm putting no value judgment on it. Let's talk about an SBR.
I'm going to talk
pistol.
about shit that I don't know, and I'm going to make really opinionated statements.
Well, here's the thing.
Let's just
when it comes to the Second Amendment, right? This is the number one comment that I guarantee you will be in my DMs when this episode comes out. Shall not infringe. Shall not infringe. I'm like, okay, I get that. What was the design of the pistol brace? Do any of you guys know why it was created in the first place?
I think originally it was to stabilize the pistol with the forearm.
Correct. Which is another way of saying we're going to give you something that looks like a buttstock. But because we word it as a forearm brace instead of a buttstock, it's a pistol instead of an SBR.
Which I love because you're playing the ATF's fucking stupid
and again,
game.
Like I said, I'm putting no value judgment on it. But it goes and bump stocks is another one.
Right.
It was, from my understanding, introduced so people with handicaps could enjoy shooting. Like, enjoy shooting with a replication of full auto. Like, again, no value judgment. I just wish we could have open and upfront conversations. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get this very short-barreled rifle caliber pistol to be legal by using words to navigate around the system? If you tell me yes, I'm still going to say, okay, I'm not a lawyer, but at least we're having an honest conversation about what you're doing.
No, but it's everybody, I think, wanting to kind of pretend that this isn't what's happening, right? And it's there's no love lost for me specifically in reference to these ridiculous fucking definitions as to what's an SBR, what isn't an SBR, what's legal and what isn't, what's a
And I think the danger being what just happened. One day what is legal, it's not COVID.
Okay.
One day it is legal,
the
illegal.
Next.
Well, for instance, a short-barreled rifle, right? Like at some point, there were people who just wanted a short rifle because they wanted a short rifle, and then some bureaucrat decided, that's really dangerous. That needs a tax stamp. You're going to be a felon if you own one now. And they gave it an arbitrary length. Like, it's X. Now it's a short-barreled rifle. Like, okay.
But it's that's I think that's the
what
thing.
The fuck is going
this
on?
is all what people are what people want to discuss is why. Like, what fucking planet did you
Why did you decide
fly in from
that?
and just decide this is what constitutes short, or this is
that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, where are you making this decision?
Be honest with me about why you wrote this law. Right. Be honest with me about why you created this piece of equipment, which on the outside really looks like you're trying to skirt this law. And if you're just honest with me about that, I'd have a better understanding and appreciation. Like, can we just put the cards on the fucking table?
I mean,
and have a conversation?
No, because it's the
about what we're
government. Because it's the government. It doesn't fucking make sense. That's why that's what I've been arguing about. I'm like, dudes, we don't need more people not making sense involved in our lives. Like, we see it. We see it every day that we've been in this COVID fucking mess with these morons. Like, oh, we got to fucking, like, we just experienced it. You got to wear your mask in the restaurant as you're walking to your table, but then you can take your mask off.
So I'll describe this. We went to a restaurant in town. We walked to the table. I was standing at the chair I was going to sit in, and a woman walked up to our table and said, "You need to have a mask on to come in here."
Probably 9 feet. 9 feet.
It was 9 feet. And to be clear, I did not have a mask on me. I'm not fucking making a value judgment on masks or not. What I'm talking about is thought process. I'm sitting at the chair that I'm going to sit down in. And I said, if I sit down, do I still need a mask? And she said, yes, you need a mask to come in here. But I'm already in here standing at the seat. And then you gave me an extra mask. We sat down and we moved on. And I made the comment to you, like, there's some leaps in logic here. And again, I'm not trying to say that I was correct in what I did. What I'm trying to say is, like, it's okay if I just sit. Like, that makes everything okay. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, we need to either be serious or not. Or like the story you were telling about the man who literally had a lace mask.
No, he had a knitted mask. You could see his fucking mouth from behind it. And this dude's walking through the airport. And then we all have to, like, pretend that this is a real mask that's doing something. And we're all just expected to go in with this thing and
Wait,
go,
you mean like the
hey, don't question anything.
Evan,
I
you
think,
mean
I think
the
the
face
woman,
shields?
I think the woman today wanted me to walk back out, put a mask on, and walk back in.
I know she did.
Which
that's what she
defeats. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get it. And I don't know if you guys caught this. What she said was, we have to comply or we're going to get shut down.
And then the health inspector came in.
Correct.
With the mask under his nose.
Yep. Correct.
With a clipboard. And that's what I'm telling you guys.
Obese. Number one risk factor associated so far with COVID fatality.
Yeah.
Obesity.
Well, you can't say that. You can't say that, right?
I'm sorry. He was a fat fuck.
I'll say it. He was obese.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, in our society, nobody wants to have an open and honest conversation about the real risks. So then we all have to pretend.
And there's these fucking logical gaps.
Well, and you're being told that if you are publicly talking about comorbidity factors, that you are either denying that this is dangerous or that you're shaming those people.
Yeah.
Okay. Neither one of those things are true. If you feel ashamed for having one of those factors that is preventable, and I'm talking about things like obesity, not some other comorbidity that is genetic, that's your fault. So if you feel ashamed, I'm not trying to make you feel ashamed. I don't want somebody to feel bad about themselves. I want them to fix themselves.
Yeah.
But we need to be talking about factors that are actually affecting people.
Well, and I don't walk around looking for reasons to insult people, but if somebody
That's
gets...
not true.
I don't often walk around looking for reasons to insult people. But the thing is, to go to your point, like if you
feel insulted by,
it's like, again, there's this gap in logic. Can we just be honest with each other? Like,
apparently not.
You're 70 pounds overweight, not because of something that I did. Am I an asshole if I make a joke about you? Yes, I certainly am. But the issue is also that you could eat your way out of that, or through discipline, or, you know what I mean? Like, can we just fucking be honest? The person who, in the grander scheme of things, whether it be a long-term burden to the healthcare system, an economic burden to the United States, like, it's not me making a joke about a guy 70 pounds overweight. It's the dude who's 70 pounds overweight.
And I can speak to
But
this.
I'm the asshole if I say anything?
No.
How did we get here?
Yeah.
There are 3 people that have been around in the last 10 months that have all lost over 50 pounds because they identified it in the spring, and they're like, oh, that seems like that's going to be a problem if I catch this.
And they probably made it their primary focus and
you know
chipped
what?
away at it.
They all feel better, they're eating better, they are healthier, and they all lost more than 50 pounds.
And they can probably see their dick now.
Yep.
You're
at least one of
making a
them.
gender assumption, but
Yes.
that's okay.
I apologize to any of those 3 people if they were not.
They have worked their fucking asses
identify
off.
as male,
Like,
yeah.
actually?
Yeah. But that's what it takes.
Yes.
But how did it get to the point where the person who says the obvious in that particular situation is the problem, not the person who eats themselves into that situation? To use that as an example.
Well,
How the fuck did that get flipped on its head?
Well, I think there's a certain section of America that believes that any negative speak towards anyone else is you can't do that. That's not permitted, right?
How much positive reinforcement did you get in the Green Beret pipeline?
None. A negative.
Trevor,
I
how
can
much
tell-
positive reinforcement was used in the SEAL pipeline?
From you? None.
In general. But here's the thing. So here's the thing, though. Do you feel like, and I'm not saying
I
it's
did.
not.
I was like, hey, good job, dummy. run that hill again, you know, or something like that. It was
and here's the thing: there's a time and place for that type of pipeline and reinforcement. But don't you guys feel like you're probably a little bit more resilient between the ears because you learned how to deal with that, as opposed to being a bubble walking around and any small pinprick just explodes everything that you are?
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest things that I keep coming back to, especially with my kids. It's like you have to teach them resiliency, and you have to start. My daughter, for instance, my wife doesn't necessarily agree with this, but my daughter, when she's 6 and she starts getting a little bit like, she rolled her eyes at me the other day. That cost her
waterboarding.
That cost her some air squats. Like she's like, I'm just sitting there in the chair going down, up, down, up, down, up, and hey, hold your hands out straight. And my wife is like, oh, dude, and I'm like, no, it's a squat. At the end of the day,
this isn't going to go on for an hour.
It's not going to go on for an hour. It's 20 air squats.
I mean, it could, depending on
what
what the little bastard does. Start with roll your eyes. That's going to be about 60 seconds. You still daddy's truck. We're going to be out here for a little bit.
But it's teaching resiliency today. And
it's not an online curriculum, as I guess is how I would encapsulate that.
No, it's not an online curriculum. And the other piece is when we were growing up, there was that saying, right? Sticks and stones break your bones, but name calling.
Words will never hurt you.
Words will never hurt you. And I think that's one of the things that is lost today, which is everybody thinks these words are going to hurt you, and they go into microaggressions and a lot of these other things. And it's like, dude, I've been called a beta cuck probably 5,000 times in the last week.
You're welcome. Most of those are from me.
No problem. I had to look it up. I was
Andy's
like,
sub-accounts.
what does this actually mean? Oh man.
I used cuckold not too long ago in a tactical asshole post, which, by the way, was taken down by Instagram.
Wow.
That post was hilarious.
However, I had some people at Instagram who were fans of the page. Internal review, we're back in business.
Well, it's become a joke around the house. It's become a joke around my house. Like my wife will be like, "Don't bend the knee to me," or whatever. Right? She'll come in and it's like,
you beta cuck.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up to make sure I was applying it to Steven Seagal correctly.
I think you probably did.
100%.
Steven Seagal and beta cuck, I think they kind of go hand in glove.
Cuckolder.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's about right. My wife is like fucking, God bless her. She's fucking pretty funny.
Let's
dude.
be honest. Anybody who can tolerate any of us, like, is a fucking walking saint.
Yes. Yeah. She's been pretty funny because like at the height of whatever it was, she like called me a fucking. She came in, she's like, "Don't bend the knee," or "I'm not going to bend the knee," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah."
I need 5 minutes to go look this up.
I tell you what I will say, to go to your point of the sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. There is, and I see this in my own kids, there's a difference between recognizing that words have real world impact, which they absolutely do, especially on people who I think are in their formative years.
Right.
My daughter's 12 and she will react appropriately so. I mean, there was a stretch where she went through some, I would say, legitimate cyberbullying, people telling her to kill herself online.
Wow.
There's real world impact in that.
Yeah.
But there's also levels of interaction online that don't have to be taken with the same level of severity as somebody saying that far end of the spectrum. And it has to be, well, I mean, again, it goes back to the term we're not allowed to use, nuance.
Right.
And understanding that just because, hey, somebody's like, you're stupid on a post, like, ignore that. You don't have to react to that with the same velocity and volume of somebody saying, hey, you should kill yourself.
But people make assumptions that you have to respond to them or you have to give them exactly what they want, right? Like I had somebody post about Black Rifle on my page.
Right.
I deleted the comment and then ceased all commenting on the thread. And then they commented on another post. They're like, why'd you delete my comment? I'm like, look, man, this isn't a forum for your fucking opinion.
Yeah.
Well, you're also 3x the age of my daughter, right? So you have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want my daughter to think that people don't exist, or that nobody exists that's going to talk to her in that way. There's a balance that you have to find, and I don't know how it's. I mean,
I'm trying really hard to, and we limit electronic devices like really early. They can only watch so many hours of TV, which sounds like we're limiting this, but we are because we want the kids to engage with each other, right? They're 3 and 6.
It will be tougher for you as they
get older.
level up. And here's what I think. It got a little bit out of hand with my kids early on,
Right.
which for anybody listening, once that horse is out of the barn, good luck putting it back.
Yeah.
And I think what I allowed to change my opinion was kind of the constant narrative of, well, all of my friends, that all of my friends, and it's like, well, if I can't communicate with them, you're restricting me from my social circle. That's not the exact words they used, but
Right.
that was the sentiment. It's like, okay, fuck, I don't want to do that. But then the next thing you know, their entire world is just
Right there.
A 4-inch
boom,
by
boom, boom.
2-inch screen.
And I think that this is so. It's so good in so many different ways, right?
Well,
But
it
it's so
allows me to send
toxic,
you inappropriate pictures at
Yes.
any time I want.
which I really enjoy. The post I sent you the other day
It was spectacular. Yeah.
was amazing. But what I'm trying to do, I think, in kind of my whole angle on this is I need to teach the kids as they grow up that this isn't real. This isn't real human connection. This isn't real. This is an electronic device that ultimately allows you to communicate, but what's happening inside of social media is not necessarily real. I don't know how that's going to play out because I've got a few more years before I really have to try to unpack that and organize it and try to
Elon's going to have the
articulate it.
chips ready for your head before
Yeah.
you get to that point.
Which, can't wait for that. Like we could just fucking fast forward to this Orwellian nightmare right now.
That's what you need, a phone that you can never turn off.
In your fucking head. That's
Forever.
what we all need.
Well, I mean, looking back in the time machine, how do you think it would have been for you growing up if we had these fucking devices?
I would have been on pornography 24 hours
It
a
would
day.
have been a shit show.
I would have literally, there's no doubt in my mind.
You would have
I know.
had really bad
the
tendonitis.
the first time.
And typing shit in there that you didn't
Yes.
really mean because,
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just a digital. It doesn't mean
It
anything.
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I look back.
Fuck that guy.
Do you know how lucky I am?
Yes.
Let's just talk about me for a
Yeah,
second. You
let's
guys
talk
know
about
me
you.
pretty well.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how fucking lucky I am? There's not a written record of the things that I thought at that age.
Oh, God.
We
Well,
wouldn't be
all
sitting.
are.
At this,
Or
we would not
said.
be sitting at this table. I can tell you that much.
No, I don't think any of us would be here. We are so fortunate for that. Like my first cell phone was 1996. That was when I first got my 1996, 1997 maybe.
Probably was like $50 a month for 30 minutes
Something like that, but it was all, it's a flip phone, like a Sprint flip phone.
with the pull-out
I
antenna.
still have it. And I'll take it out every now and again and like
The battery lasted a week.
I'll take it out every now and again. My wife's like, "What are you doing with that?" I'm like, "I'm just going to make some posts with this thing, Take some snaps, make some posts, whatever." It's
with
my
your
thing.
half megapixel camera.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's got an antenna that you pull out.
That's what I used to remember. I used to pull it with my teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to business now. You know what I mean?
Hey, I need you to buy.
It had one app, Snake.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck.
Yep.
Do you guys remember monitoring how many minutes were left on your plan
Oh,
per
fuck
month?
yeah.
I remember talking to my mom, like, Mom, I've got to go. I've got 7 fucking minutes left. Kadoosh.
And I
Call me
remember-
back in 10 minutes. It's after 7. I got unlimited after that.
That's right, there was. There
I
was.
remember this when texting first came out.
Yeah, and you had to
And I was like-
push the key.
Yeah, you had to push the key. I was like, this is the dumbest shit. Why wouldn't I just call somebody? Because
This
this
will
is so
never catch
dumb.
on.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
But
this
people had not been texting enough, so we were still doing full words, full sentences the entire time. There was no like, "Hey,
No.
yeah, you." Like none of this shit that's going on now, and you have a full keyboard sitting right in front of you.
I have to, at least once a week, I'll text my daughter. I'm like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
It's like TTDLR, LOL. I'm just like, what?
and then a string of emojis.
She's like, Dad. I'm like, I don't know this shit. And actually, because I'm embarrassed to ask her, half the time I'll just throw it into Google and it comes
Yeah.
up. I'm like, oh,
okay.
okay.
Got it.
Talk to you later, Dad. Have a good night. I'm like, holy shit.
Trying to figure out what people are saying. I think that's the other thing is like throwing somebody, not as if like I'm ancient, but it's like throwing myself into the electronic world and trying to figure out things that are like happening and what people are talking about. It's like there's so much shit to keep up with. Most of the time, all I'm doing is I'm just like either talking to people on the phone or I'm texting them about work. Like 99% of my communications all about work. So, and everybody at work for the most part is still like, we're full sentence guys, right? We're like full sentence because there's a lot of things that can be
misconstrued.
Yes. Yeah. And if it can be, you have to pick up the phone and call somebody and go, hey, dude, I texted this out and it sounded really fucked up. So
No implied
I'm calling you. Yeah,
tasks,
there's
right?
no implied, like, don't imply anything. There's no tonality to this. It's just dead.
That's a tough one to not apply tone to a text.
Well, and I'm glad that you've said it at the office to more people than I can count. Like, there are no implied tasks. If I tell you something, just do the thing.
Yeah.
Not expecting more.
Don't read anything into
Like,
it.
Jesus Christ.
Like the implied task thing is one of the things that we fight like all the time. And I'm like, you can't leave one step out. So over the past 5 years, it's like, these are the steps you need to accomplish this task. Don't leave any step out. Don't do anything outside of that. I don't need you to color outside of the lines on this one. Just fucking do it. You're like, oh, okay. Why are you so anal about this? I'm like, because I've learned that if
you've seen one dumpster on fire, you've seen them all.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So who would have thought the military would have taught me a few things where it's like, and I remember this so well, like, dummy cording everything down. There's no implied task. Don't run outside of your script. Do exactly what I say.
Well, think about the mission planning process, right?
All your
Like,
shit's labeled.
specified, implied tasks. It's like, fuck.
Yeah. And it's
Listing everything out in crystal clear detail. So a fuckwit who's 18 with a rifle, under leadership and supervision, by the way, which is another off-ramp of a current situation that are not even remotely connected, trained, equipped, under supervision and leadership at all times. Yeah, so those people know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, so they don't fucking shoot their buddies in the back of their head. Like, that's the way it works.
Or take a nap.
Yeah, or take a nap. Or forget a belt-fed weapon system in a patrol base as you move out or whatever it is.
Was I supposed to bring that back?
Oh, shit, I didn't realize that. Oh, you mean I couldn't take all the rounds out of my ruck to make it lighter? Oh, dang, dude, I didn't realize that.
I needed water on this one?
Yeah.
I don't know how many patrols I've been on in the desert in a training environment where I just threw ammunition to the nearest crevasse that I could find.
God, I remember just kind of because you'd go through, your training iterations, you'd go through like an ambush or react, contact, whatever it might be, and you'd see everybody around you when the fucking when the instructor had walked away, everybody's digging a hole and throwing stuff in there, like, oh man, we got to lighten my ruck by about 3 pounds on this one.
Or as soon as the 60 gunner in the early days or the 240 kicks off, people are just running by throwing ammo at them, absent being asked for. The dude's still got a full loadout and like fucking 4 boxes around him. It's like,
the guy has 800
thanks,
rounds
guys.
on him, and you gave him 800 rounds.
Yeah.
My theory is as soon as you hear that first burst, just throw your box.
I
of ammo
remember
out.
having those conversations too. I remember having those conversations where you're on the 60 and it's like, do not call shift fire until I get through this entire belt. Don't fucking say it, man. I got to dump these rounds.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change to another 100-round belt before we have to fucking move.
That was the standard, was a box per guy minimum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the 60 gunners probably had probably 100 in the gun and
Probably
4
1
to
plus
500
4.
on them.
Yeah, I think it's like 1 plus 4.
And for people listening, sorry, you don't carry it like John Rambo.
No, you sure don't. Yeah.
No.
And that shit is heavy. My buddy and I, we were talking about this a couple months ago because we went through, which was phase 1 back in the day, which is all patrolling. And we were talking about just I had hurt my shoulder, so I couldn't put my hand above my head, and it was it was an inconvenience, it was a tad inconvenience. But that fucking strap from the 60.
You mean
or
the
240,
1-inch webbing?
It was a torture device.
It was a garrote wire.
It was so fucked up, and your neck was rubbed completely raw. You're in so much fucking pain with every step you're taking through the woods as you're going up and in and out of draws and everything. You're like, please, God, just let me get to the release point. Please, God.
I feel like there's 2 things like that. It's that and a Draeger.
God, a Draeger is a different type of suck.
Why? Why
It just
is it a
fucking
different type of
drags on your neck forward. It
Okay,
doesn't chafe you as much, but it just
it has
pulls your
4
head.
So
attachment points.
explain to
but
everybody.
one is just a 1-inch piece of webbing that goes around your neck.
So explain to everybody what the Draeger is, because
The LARF, well, you're the goddamn mini submarine fucking expert.
It's
I avoid the water at all costs.
It's a Puro 2 closed circuit breathing apparatus. It weighs too much and it hangs around your neck.
Correct. So
It
no
hangs
closed circuit means
around
no bubbles. It
your
means
neck.
you could be sneaky if you wanted to.
So no bubbles,
And
like
there-
literally zero.
There was a number of occasions
Unless you
that
because you're trying to breathe down your O2 cylinder.
Got it.
Because
Yeah,
they have you on an exhaustion dive, meaning you can't come up until you're empty, and you're just sitting there just like,
Just blowing it out.
in, out. Oh, yeah, I've seen those. Breathe the cylinder down.
but like, really, I can't come up until my tank's empty? I just lost my tank.
But I mean, there was a number of times, including one where you had us running back to Bud's with those hanging
I made
around
you
our
guys
necks.
run back to Buds?
Oh, yeah, we got to
God, I
run.
got in so much fucking trouble for the things I did to students.
Okay. So you wear this thing around your neck. It weighs,
Right.
I don't know. Somebody's going to look it up, and I have no fucking clue. It felt like it weighed 45 pounds, but probably weighed closer to
LR5? No way.
25 or 30.
I'd say 20 to 25.
Anyways, so you have that, your dive weights, your fins, you're wearing a wetsuit. You just finished a couple-hour dive, and then the staff are like, "You motherfuckers are late. You're running back to base." And it was like 2 miles or more.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we had all the
stronger
buoys, and they're like, "Yeah, you're on a fucking time limit, morons."
You have 4 minutes and 30 seconds to be back
It was
to
one of
base.
those. It's 2 miles. Yeah, and if you don't put out, we're gonna beat you along the way.
One of my favorite fucking memories was this dude that we had. And I wish I could remember his fucking name, but I can't. But he would always give us these time hacks that were like, "You have 4 minutes and 33 seconds," and it was always like, it was an odd.
Of course.
It was always an odd number of seconds. It was
1
never-
minute and 7 seconds remaining.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like so fucking funny. Now that you look back on it, you're like, God, this is fucking hilarious.
And I bet it went something like this. Yeah, you have 1 minute and 17 seconds. Go whenever you want. We're already going.
I was, as a second phase instructor, I forget what the class did to upset me, but it was definitely deserved.
Of course.
I had them don their Twin 80 scuba tanks with weight belt, dive masks, flipper around each hand. We went out to the surf zone, fill up the mask with water, and then we did wind sprints up the burn.
Fuck.
Okay, Andy.
So
I
hold on.
remember this because I watched it.
So we go back to the second phase grinder, and the OIC is like, "Hey, man, come in my office for a second." I was like, "All right." He's like, "Hey, did you just completely jock up all the students in their Twin 80s and have them go do wind sprints directly in front of the view of the CEO's office?" His window. I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're in a lot of trouble. You can't do that." I was like, "Well, nobody told me." So actually, I was like, "Okay, what time does the CEO usually go home?" "Oh, 1600. All right,
Got
we'll
it.
be doing these at 1700. No, I had to sign a counseling shit on that one.
That was terrifying to watch because I was in walk week or what we were doing at the end of first phase.
Oh yeah, you guys. That's what was loading up for
We
you
were
guys.
watching you
Yeah.
do this to the class, and we're like, "Oh my god, we're so fucked."
Dude, wind sprints with Twin 80s on a soft sand berm that's at least 30 feet
That
up.
makes me want to
wait.
throw up
Wait,
right now.
Evan.
That
dive
actually
mask,
makes me-
dive mask full of seawater.
wearing UDTs, dive booties, and t-shirts.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
correct.
it's fantastic.
It got the point across.
Yeah.
What was the word? No, you know what? I think-
Jock up.
Yeah, so every time the class messed up in second phase,
Right.
we had a magnetic cutout that said "jock up," and fucking God help you if you spelled the whole thing out. And that's actually what happened with that class.
They spelled it.
They'd be like,
I think
late
they
for
almost
mu-
spelled it twice.
Yeah, like late for muster, J.
Right.
Like you'll get a little bit of
Got it.
remediation
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point, but we're gonna save this one up. Special. Put a bow on this gift. Yeah, I remember that class. Those fuckers got to jock up, and the OIC was like, "All right, they're yours." And then I got back, and he was just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "You said I could go out there and remediate."
Well, and then they almost did it again.
Yeah, there were
And
some classes that were shit shows.
That was a moment where, so I had pneumonia and failed an evolution after Hell Week, and I got rolled back. That was my class. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, that's good. It's not me, but I don't want to be there. This is scary.
Yeah, they earned it.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
they remember you. Like,
I
that's
don't know.
the thing. They remember you. Because you remember those
Not
guys.
for probably anything good. Even though I have had great experiences with people I put through train, they're like, "Hey, just so you know, I hated you for the last decade, but we're good."
Yeah, I ran into a guy in Baghdad in 2005. He was a phase 1 instructor. And it's like, man, I fucking hated you. He's like, oh, yeah. Well, and the story is awesome because like there was part fear and part hate in there. because we could never wear our rain gear, right? So we're just like doing, which is
But
stupid.
you
We
had to have it
pack
on you.
Yeah, we have to pack it. And
Look, but don't
all
touch.
of our rain gear is in our fucking backpacks, but we can't wear it on patrol. So the rain, it's like rain, sleet, a little bit of snow, and you're just kind of like moving through this evolution.
You're slowly
just
dying.
walking and fucking freezing to death, right? Basically at that time. And he's just like walking like nothing's happening. And this dude, he's so stoic and he's drenched to the bone, and he's not
Mustache?
He's not. Oh fuck yeah!
Like
yes,
like a 3-sided
Yes,
dick broom,
dude.
Oh fuck yeah!
And he's just stoic. No, all of us are jackhammering. Our teeth are chattering so hard, as you guys know the feeling that you can't really talk, and my hands didn't work.
Yeah.
So I had to put my hand in like this in the trigger well to do this. Pull my finger back and forth because my hands didn't work. And I remember looking at this dude. I was like, that is a bad motherfucker, man. And God, I hate this dude. So I talked to him a few years later in Baghdad. I was like, bro, you are a hard motherfucker. And he's like, oh, dude, I had a 3 mil wetsuit underneath that.
Surprise, motherfucker.
I was like,
Tricks of the trade.
oh, man, what a relief. Because I was like,
How did you do it?
yeah, this dude is so hard. He's like, oh, I remember that. That was brutal for you guys. I was like, oh, man, I'm going to have to call in the ambulance for some of you guys.
So you learned resilience.
Yeah, exactly. But you got to fucking move through. I mean, we dropped, I don't know how many dudes that first night. I don't know. They were just like, I'm all good. I'm good. I'm going to go, because he started a fire just off away from everybody.
Just
like,
close enough to
hey,
see
man, if you want to quit, this fire's nice and warm and toasty.
As
You
he's
guys wanna
standing
come
next to
over
it,
there?
steam is just rolling off his shoulders. That's a classic Hell Week technique.
Those are the things I remember about that whole process. The first like month and a half, the most, is the staff standing there with a cup of coffee that you can see steam coming out, and you're in the surf zone or doing bear crawls with your face in the sand. Somebody quits and they're like, oh, here's a cup of coffee. As you're standing next to this person who just quit, and you're going, oh fuck, is this really happening?
Dude, in my class, we lost, I'd say 30 people within the first few hours of Hell Week. It was fucking crazy. But classic like mind fuck games like that too.
Yeah.
So the fire, I think, is like Wednesday night of Hell Week. And everybody comes up and they have to tell a story. But it's like,
Oh God, I
it's
remember
a
that.
goddamn bonfire. And these, you watch
you
these.
dig trenches.
Yeah, you dig trenches, of course, because you have to secure the bonfire with paddles because that's an optimal trenching tool.
Of course.
And each student comes up and they tell a story. And if the instructors laugh, you can go stand near the fire. And if not, you go hit the surf and stand away from the fire in the shadows.
That's solid.
But you watch these kids who've been awake for like 72 hours and their skin is basically blistering because they're like, fire. Just like inching close, like, get away from the fire. No sense of, security for themselves, or like just complete disregard for their own safety. But those are the classic ones. Like, here's your choice. You can go lay in the surf for an hour, or you can come stand by the fire with me.
It's a hell of a motivator.
It is.
Well, it's pretty disheartening when you don't get a laugh.
Right. Then you're
Okay, go hit the surf zone. Oh crap.
like,
Or another good one was, we're going to be out here all night until somebody quits.
yeah,
To
those
try
are
to
the best.
just try to lever just one person out, and then when
Yeah.
one person goes, it's like, you know what?
We're gonna keep going.
One more.
Yeah, that's like a trick you learn early on. You're like, this is never gonna be enough.
Correct.
It's
Somebody
never
will
gonna be
quit.
enough.
It will not be me, but this isn't going to stop.
Yeah, it's never gonna stop. I remember so acutely those times where you're like, man, I got one more in me. I got one more step. I got one more thing, and it's like just one more. And I think when you look back on that and you have that experience in your life, I think that's one of the many things I've pulled away from experience, especially going through selection or any of those courses. When you have that, when somebody has pushed you so fucking far that your mind is just literally looking for one more step psychologically, or one more
And people
thing.
need to understand, when you say that, that's actually what you mean. That's not a metaphorical, hey, let's just focus. It's like literally in your head, I think I can actually only do one more step.
One more. And then one more. And so
Yeah.
you're playing that game with yourself as well. You just continue to put one more. one more on the fucking table. And then you're like, oh, I feel a little bit better. You know, somebody will do something like, I've talked about this a lot. I think you and I talked about it, the vampire effect. When somebody quits, it's like, I'll take your energy now. That's my energy.
The podcast I recorded earlier today, Steve was asking questions about buds, and I was talking about the bell and how when people would ring it, a small portion of their soul becomes yours. And he was just like, well, that's a dark way to think about it.
Yeah, but it's especially when it's people that were like star athletes in the class.
So that's
like,
what he and I talked about.
You're a star
too.
performer, and bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, the first dude who quit in my buds class was in the best swimmer bailed on a run. Shocker, because he was fucking collegiate level swimmer.
Right.
Not a lot of time running, so therefore not a lot of struggling on things other than a liquid environment. Best runner, guess where he went? Swim. Though of course he's like, who really gives a shit? But you'd watch guys like D1, D2 athletes ejecting
all the time,
left and right, like they're studs, but not between the ears.
I think that happened quite a bit when when I first arrived. I remember watching guys, and they were like doing 1,000 push-ups, and they're like fucking jacked, and you're like, oh man, that guy, he's gonna make it. And it's like 15 minutes into the iteration, it's like, I'm out.
Where'd push-up guy go?
Yeah, where'd push-up guy go? Oh, he's going somewhere else. He's going to the line. That's where he's going.
And you never hear that person again.
No, and I think that there's something to be said about never being good at anything. So you're like, oh, fuck it, I can endure. I'm kind of a...
if you're never good at anything, what does that mean? That means you're struggling at everything.
Yeah.
And through that struggle, you're probably growing and developing some resilience.
And if I quit, then it means that I'm not good at anything. Like, that's like literally you're hanging on your door.
Yeah.
If I quit, like for me, it was always... Quitting was never really an option. It's interesting because people have asked me that. And they're like, well,
it's a common one for buds too.
It was never an option. It's like my body had to physically quit. It couldn't, if I couldn't take another step or I couldn't do something, physically couldn't do something, that was the only way that it wasn't going to happen. Or an attrition through an instructor saying, hey, you failed this iteration, you're gone, right? So if I eliminate that option to quit, then it's just, you just have to do it and finish it. That's
it's
it.
Just a game.
It makes it easier psychologically for yourself. But if you take that off the table, people are like, well, how do you take that off the table? I'm like, I don't know. You just take it off the table. You don't quit. That's the way you
totally
do it.
understand what you're saying, and I don't know necessarily how to teach people that other than like incremental exposure over time. But then the question is, I was 18 when I went through buds.
Right.
I don't know where I got that incremental exposure. I think people are probably different out of the box.
Yeah. Well, your dad was in the Navy, wasn't he?
He was, and I mean, I worked for him as a masonry hod carrier for everything ever since I was very, very young. Not the easiest job in the world. And I actually look back, I remember, one of the biggest things I tell people is if you can keep your world small, it's amazing what you can accomplish by the one step at a time. And I remember being early, and I might not even have been a teenager, but I basically moved bricks in concrete for my dad forever while I worked for him. Because I wasn't a bricklayer at all. I was at best a hod carrier and probably an unlicensed one at that. But the pallets of bricks would show up, and they're fucking 500 bricks per pallet.
Right.
And I remember cutting off getting the tin snips and cutting off the metal that held it, and then the tongs that you could carry were 6 at a time. And when I first started working with him, it was 2 hands on one 6-tong thing of bricks, and then eventually became 12 at a time. And that mental game you play with yourself when you wake up in the morning, you go to the job site, and there's like 6 pallet of bricks.
Right.
And his whole thing is like, get those on the roof. I'm like, fuck. 6 or 12 at a time, and it's like you have 2 ways to look at that. I have now 6 on the roof and 494 more to go, or I'm just going to do this trip and then the next one and then the next one and the next one and completely fucking ignore how many I have left, because the next thing you know, sometime you'll come back and like, oh, that pallet's done, and then on to the next. So I learned that lesson, but it was not structured. Like my dad did not tell me that.
Right.
But it helped for sure. Because any selection program, like you said, if you take quitting off the table for yourself, everybody needs to remember this. Every selection program, it has a stopwatch of some kind, usually in the term of months. So if you're going to play a game with a time limit and you don't quit, guess what happens?
You win.
You get to the end of it.
You win.
Yeah.
Well, I learned that too. So, my dad was a logger. He worked in the woods most of his life. So did my grandfather and everybody before him. So we spent a lot of time throughout the year gathering, in the summer specifically, getting firewood. So I remember that exact experience with cords of wood. Just carrying.
Oh God, that's another perfect one.
Just carrying wood. From the time that I could put wood in my hands, it was like my job to go to the shop and bring wood in for the fire, for the fireplace. It was my job to move the wood from this side to this side, unpack it like this. This is my job, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's cords and cords of wood over multiple days and iterations throughout the summer, where it's just like from the time that I could fucking carry wood, and then it was like, oh, you're gonna split wood now, and then you're gonna do this. And looking back on it, the funny thing is I now have a really fond memory of those things, whereas I fucking hated it when I was a kid. But, dude, if you were like, hey, let's go get some wood this summer, I'd be like, fuck yeah, man, let's go. It's going to be like a hobby. Like, we'll get chainsaws out, get the splitting mauls. Let's fucking do this. This is going to be super fun. I ordered a couple cords of wood last summer or 2 summers ago and had it dropped off at the office just so I could split wood in the back. People were like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, it's a good workout. And, my grandfather on my dad's side.
Fun.
There's a little bit of violence involved.
Yeah. And it's a good workout. You get fucking incredible. Like, if you're really working that thing, especially with a good splitting maul, dude, you are going to sweat your fucking ass off.
Pop the shirt off, light coat of olive oil on there.
My grandfather died.
Mirrored aviators.
My grandfather died splitting wood.
He did?
Yeah, he had a heart attack. Had a heart attack and died literally splitting wood. That's how he died. So It's like kind of a connection, I think, too. Like, my family worked in the woods, so it's always kind of this like connection to my family and where I came from, I guess. But that was a very similar experience, because I remember so well, like the slivers that I would get in my forearms from the fucking wood, from packing it, in my arms, and just like picking the red pieces of wood, out of your fucking forearms. You're like moving wood back and forth.
Like, my life is the worst.
No, it was fun. Now I look back on it, but half the shit you do that's like super hard that you fucking hate when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Give it some time.
Fondest memories I have.
Yeah.
Or almost all involve pain of some kind.
Yeah. They're like, oh shit, I did that. That's fucking brutal. I lived in a fucking snow cave on Rainier one year with a group of guys, a bunch of SF guys. We were going to try to go summit. We skied up this fucking mountain, and then we just got snowed in. We're just like sitting in this fucking snow cave for like 3 or 4 days, melting snow, cooking, waiting for a window to go up. And that's what we did. And I was like, it sucked. You were cold, wet, and miserable the entire time. But I look back and I was like, oh man, those guys were super fun. It was like really funny, and it sucked, but it was fun. And even now, when somebody calls me from, that time frame, they're like, hey dude, you remember that time we like sat in that snow cave for like 3 days? I'm like, yeah. You remember how shitty that was? Yeah. It's like, hey, we should go back to Rainier one of these
have you ever
days.
thought about going again?
Okay. Yeah, it sounds fucking awesome, man.
I wonder what those, if you could force everybody to go through a pipeline like that, I think it would drastically change the
They used to.
woke culture.
Now there's too many of us.
Well, I've thought a lot about that, because Tim Kennedy was talking. He's starting a school for kids, and I was like, oh God, what does that look like? I mean, Tim's a really talented dude, an intense guy. But can you imagine,
with a hint of insanity?
Yeah, can you imagine like going through Tim Kennedy's like school? Just imagining like.
Last time I was in Texas, I was at his house and he was talking about this.
Dude.
It was right before we went over to his house. We went and did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and by that I mean he fucking smashed me like a 1,000-pound bag of sharp-edged boulders.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, it's actually hard to describe. And he's just such a high-level practitioner. People be like, oh, is Tim Kennedy any good? I'm like, yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah.
But he was talking about that school, and in my head I was like, is there? You guys don't have any like whips, do you? or like a yoke? You guys don't have that thing where you put your hands in there in the head,
from
right?
Conan?
Yeah. So what's did you unpack it with him? Were you like talking in depth?
I did
about
not.
it?
They were doing a high level business meeting, so I was actually doing my best to stay out of it. But I just remember the topic of the school coming up. It'll be interesting for sure. It may be a non-traditional scholastic approach.
I would imagine. I can't. I would love to see that happen with a bunch of former, mill guys or whatever it is that are kind of.
I could see it ending up a lot like the Hunger Games, though.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a double-edged sword. I think you'd have a position where you're like, okay, our kids are going to be really fucking hard and very talented. They're going to be like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners, and they're going to be really fucking smart and ultra violent capable people. Or it might just really fuck them up. I don't know. But I think that I'd probably move to the or not the latter, but the pre and say, hey.
As long as you controlled it, because they are so young.
Yeah.
You look at this stuff, what we're talking about, like our fondest memories, we're into our late teens, early 20s.
Right.
I think maybe Conan the Barbarian. Wait until your later teens for that.
That guy is he has so much fucking energy.
I loved him.
Dude, he's so
awesome.
much fun. That guy, if he comes down and does a podcast or anything, he'll call randomly. Hey man, what's going on? What do you think we do something? Let me check my calendar. Okay, I've got a nearest opening is 6 months from now.
Yeah. I have got you on the book, dude, for January 2037.
Yeah. 3 to 5. You good with that? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, by the way, AM.
Yeah, AM. You good with that? Okay.
No, he's awesome, man. It's he took the time, flew in there, took the time, met me at the private the gym. God damn it, what's the name of the brand? It's a sunglass brand. And amazing facility, smashed the living fuck out of me, and then came and shot the next day. But he's the best. And I referenced the podcast when he was on with Joe the last time.
Yeah.
People will look at him and like, oh, he's just a knuckle dragging savage. And there's an essence of that, but he's also so incredibly articulate and talking about national strategy,
right.
The Green Beret strategy, counterinsurgency, the layers of warfare. It's like, you're doing yourself a disservice if you sell that motherfucker short.
Well, I think that's one thing that a lot of guys, they default to that because they say, well, we're just, knuckle draggers. I think, a guy like Tim, he's incredibly talented and across the board, a wide variety of things. And I think that actually puts people at ease when he says something like that, because if he didn't, I think people would have a really fucking hard time engaging with him because they would be so intimidated from all life's accomplishments.
Yeah.
They would be like, that guy's inapproachable. He's not. He's the
opposite of that.
He's a very fucking approachable person. One of my favorite sayings is psychology is more contagious than the flu. So with a guy like him, he's always like, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Let's do that. That guy is such a necessity to, I think, a collective psychology and improving just positivity. We need more people actually like him in the community, just going, fuck it, man. You do you. Let's roll.
Yeah.
Let's have fun.
Yeah.
Beat each other up. Let's go to the range. Let's have fun.
And less people that are like, you're not in my lane of traffic, so you're wrong.
Yeah.
I actually think developing or training as hard as he has, I think it makes him, or people in general, more open to other people's ideas because you're more secure in yourself.
Yeah.
I can imagine, or I can only imagine, being somebody who was never untested in any physical arena, or maybe they even grew up in an environment where they're not even tested mentally, or emotionally. How confident are you going to be absent ever being tested, as opposed to a guy like that who's gone up against the best in the world? Like, what does he fucking care?
He doesn't care.
Agree or disagree? He's like, I know who I am. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no longer any point to try to prove.
And there's a lot of people that unfortunately have had every idea and every issue somebody is going to just placate to what they're saying, right? Or give them a gold star for coming up with it, whether it's right, wrong, or they're indifferent to it. And that's not giving you any challenge. And when you're not challenged with some sort of repercussion on the back end, right? Failure or winning, if you want to say winning, or a degree or whatever the case may be, then you're legitimately unsure, or you're going to be intensely arrogant about everything you have to say, and everybody needs to listen to everything you have to say because it is correct because it's coming out of your mouth.
I think that's ego and compensation, right? So it's a default position for people, I think, to be louder if they're compensating for some type of issue. Insecurity, yeah. And I think
small pennies.
Well, a lot of us, I think that's the freedom that a lot of us have because, I was telling somebody this a while ago where it's like, man, I really don't have anything to prove to anyone in my life. I mean, I have to be a good father. I have
Nor
to be
the
a good
desire
businessman.
to prove
No.
anything to anybody anymore.
Like, hey, I know, you know, I know who I am. I'm pretty confident with who I am. At the end of the day, I think, you know, I've heard this from a lot of my friends. They were like, oh, you know, what was combat like? I wish I would have, you know, joined and had that experience. I'm like, no, you don't, dude. You don't fucking, like, why? How many of my friends have fucking dove into a bottle because they can't you know, drink away their demons? You know, how many of my friends are missing fucking, you know, their legs or their limbs or
just missing in
or
general.
they're just missing in general. I'm like, you don't fucking need that experience.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need it.
Broken families.
Yeah, broken families. Like, there's a hole, I think, in some men or women, but generally the conversations I have is with men. They're like, well, they feel inadequate because they haven't had that experience. And I continue to talk to them and like, dude, you do you, man. That's the great thing about this country is you get to be whoever the fuck you want to be, but don't think about what you could or should have done. That's just fucking lost effort and energy.
It's not the way to go through life.
No, but it has at least given me a level of security and freedom and knowing like, hey, I know who I am in a gunfight. Like, I know that person. I know who I am if people are shooting at me. I know who I am if I'm shooting at people. Like, I know that. I know what kind of a team member I am. I don't really have to question that because I know who that person is, which allows me, I think, a certain freedom to just kind of fucking send it. And then if people don't like it, they obviously are just, oh, well, okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm not going to leave it. I'm not going to leave anything on the table in this life. I'm not going to be like, oh man, I should have done that. It's like, no, if I want to do it, I'm going to go fucking do it. I'm not going to leave. That's my fear, I think, in a lot of these, in just life in general. If I have any fears, is leaving something undone. Like, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? What type of man do I want to be? What type of person do I want to be to my family? I think that's my driving force 90% of the time. What kind of a man do I want to be? What are my children going to look to me and then discover, learn, and then think about when I'm fucking long dead and gone? Are they going to think of me as a good man? Are they going to think of me as a good father? That's kind of my driving force. Whereas before this, you know, it was what kind of a team member am I? Like, what kind of an individual or team member am I? And I think it kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how priorities change. I think definitely once I had kids, those things really changed. I think just having that freedom of knowing I'm good with myself. A lot of guys don't have that. They kind of live in a life of questioning themselves to some degree, which I think is truly unfortunate because I talk to a ton of guys. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? You don't need that experience. Like, you're a great guy.
Well, and you can find the test elsewhere outside of a combat environment. You know what I mean? It's a solvable problem for people. You don't have to wonder whether or not you're good enough to do fill in the blank. Go find a test that replicates, you know, for some people, hey, go run a marathon. Maybe that's your test.
Yeah.
Or Ironman or the whatever the one
Spartan
is where you
races.
Yeah,
or
the
some
one you
shit.
jump in the mud.
Yeah,
but avoiding discomfort is not the way to answer that
Oh
question.
God, no. You have to be so fucking uncomfortable and ready to quit. I think physically and mentally you have to be prepared to put yourself into a position where you think everything is going to collapse like a fucking dying star. When you feel that energy and you're pushed back against it, that's, I think, when you really start to feel, oh, okay, this is who I am. If you don't ever get to that position, you'll never really know. And then you'll always question who that person is.
Well, and it makes sense when you look at what we are, right? You know, we're a machine that was designed millions and millions of years ago, you know, through evolution, right? So we're this hardware that's millions of years old with software from yesterday. So your hardware wants to be stressed. Your hardware wants those stressors. It wants that kind of feeling, and it needs that sort of affirmation of success, whether that's I plan to call it a hunt and then I'm successful, right? That doesn't have to be physically incredibly difficult.
Right.
But the world has to have the repercussion of the star is going to fall apart. You know, like that.
Yeah.
That's going to happen, or I'm going to starve. That's what our bodies want. That's what we genetically need. And I think there's a lot of people that are constantly have their entire life just softly given the ability to take an exit here and cross over, and I'm sort of gonna get to the end state in the easiest way possible. And now you're an adult, and the only way to get a stress out of life is by lashing out and being enraged at name the thing. It's everything from using the word nuance.
I didn't know that was a forbidden noise that you can make with your mouth.
Yeah, I didn't either.
To I don't know, donating to a ecologic group. Like, I donate to Ocean Conservancy. Like, are people going to think I'm a crazy eco warrior?
Yeah,
I mean,
think there's a
what the
certain portion.
shit?
Maybe
like,
you are.
Yeah, I like the Earth. We got the one.
It's pretty rad.
It's pretty cool.
Well, I think that lumping people into
Groups,
pre-designated definitions, I think that's a simple way for people to just kind of live life and say, this is who I am. This is, I'm just going to fit this box. You and I've talked about that for a long time. It's like, there's nothing wrong with thinking like, hey, clean air is pretty cool. I like to breathe it. Maybe we should think about how what we do affects those people around us. So, one of the conversations I was having was putting an afterburner on our roasters. I was like, no, we need to put afterburners on them. We want to burn off all the excess fucking smoke because we don't need to contribute to it. So what?
Does that just reburn the
it just burns
the residual?
Yeah, it just burns off the excess smoke. So literally you're burning the smoke. And so all of that essentially excess carbon that's released into the air, you're burning it again. And there's no reason to add to the trash in the air, especially in Salt Lake, because we deal with inversion all the fucking time. The air is horrible in Salt Lake. Half the time we have to have air filters in every one of our rooms and our offices. In the wintertime, it gets really fucking bad. I'm like, I'm not going to contribute to that. I'm all good. Like, we're going to burn off the excess smoke. That's what we're going to do. Oh, okay. Yeah.
You crazy hippie.
Yeah, you crazy hippie. And it's like, not really. Just,
Like, you can't do that and care about guns.
You can't, I guess, you
Pick one, Evan.
You're gonna drift across the lines. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
They are going to brainwash you if you start believing those hippie thoughts.
Yeah. Well,
Speaking of hippie thoughts, what the fuck are you doing hunting with a bow from 1400s technology? How's that gone for you this season?
I've drawn back 0 times.
Zero.
What's your effective range with that thing?
On an elk?
Just in general.
I've been, check the internets, but I've been routinely consistent at putting a softball size group at 20, like dinner plate at 30 is pretty, I'm pretty happy with that. Most days, like the Instagram days, but yeah, I'd say most of the time that's about where I'm at. I picked it up purely out of curiosity and then talking to Jeff Shapiro.
You were trad curious.
I was trad curious.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Falconry curious, too.
I was falconry curious. Thank you, Jeff. But
first off, everybody should be falconry curious, because when I sat down with him, I was like, what? God. You hunt with a flying friend?
That's fucking badass.
So, I got to watch Cirrus kill a pheasant about a month ago. It was
it's
fucking really cool. But he asked, he's like, you want to come up and hunt? Cool. If you want to hunt with a trad bow, that'd be really cool, because he hunts with a longbow. And he's hunted with compound and rifle. He'll put food in the freezer, period.
What's the difference between a trad bow and a longbow?
Well, so trad's more like the macro group. So everything from recurves to pure English longbows or self bows, like just a stick that is
bent.
Yeah. And he's hunted with a longbow for a long time. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, what is the issue with me wanting to learn something that makes it a little more difficult? I have to get closer. So
I like how you use the word a little.
A little bit.
Exponentially.
What's been kind of cool, though, is it's forced my picture tactically of the scene to change. It's only going to improve my ability to hunt with a rifle and a compound.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'm forcing myself to think of how to get within range and have a shooting lane for a thing that arcs like a rainbow, and I have to be sort of within the 25 or 30 yard range.
What kind of penetration would you get with that thing?
Fantastic. I'm shooting like a 650 grain setup with a 65-pound bow.
What kind of feet per second are you getting?
somewhere just over 200, but I mean, it's getting over 60 foot-pounds of force when it's hitting a target. So
It's actually better than I thought it would have been.
they're blowing right through elk at that range, if it's soft tissue stuff.
Right.
And I mean, people have been hunting with those for 100,000 years, right? So obviously they were putting 30 arrows into those things because those were between 20 and 30-pound bows.
Right.
But it's a phenomenal killing machine. It works fantastic. And the proof is out there. I have not shot an animal with one yet.
Yeah.
I would like to.
Did you fill your Montana tag with anything?
Not yet. The shoulder season
Is all you've got left.
It's all I've got left. And I've already.
Rifle season ended Sunday.
I know. So I'm coming up for shoulder season.
What does that mean? What's shoulder season? I don't know.
So they open up some
A
units.
season on like the shoulder of the.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the back end. So it's really just to
And
fill
I
my tag.
think it's cow only.
Yeah.
Depending on
Almost
the
everywhere.
district. Yeah.
I'm still going up into the Wasatch looking for elk with the recurve. I'm just dead set on giving it a go. I'm in a fortunate position where I can learn that skill and then give it a shot, and I still have stuff in the freezer. I still have meat from animals that I've killed.
Yeah, you'll have moose meat for the next fucking 4
forever.
decades.
Yeah. Which is great. So it leaves me in a spot where I've now found this thing that is very cool. It's sharp, pointy stick golf.
Yeah.
It's fucking really cool. There's nothing to it. It's a stick, a string, and then another stick with a pointy end. And
That's how I hunt too, but it's just a suppressed 308 on a tripod.
yeah,
Some sticks. though.
Some sticks. It's just a stick and a projectile. That's all it is. Super
At a
simple.
baseline level, we're talking about the same thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Something goes from
projectiles.
A to B with some kinetic energies.
Yeah.
What we're talking about.
And I mean, I'm more than happy to shoot something with a rifle. It's just that recurve it's been a really interesting learning curve, and I like how difficult it is.
Yeah.
I'm still shooting the compound all the time because there's going to be hunts where the recurve might not be appropriate.
Right.
Not in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Not in the amount of time that I've practiced this thing.
I kind of got forced into rifle season or rifle hunting this year because I jacked up my elbow. And I was sitting there like, God, do I really want to do this? Is this fair?
Right.
Is this fair for the animal?
Yeah.
Which is why, and we talked about this when you
Yeah.
asked me if I wanted to go on that first hunt, years ago. It's like, yeah, I was never really interested in hunting because my family I didn't grow up with that on the radar.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't either.
after I spent time in the military, I'm like, well, that doesn't seem very fun or challenging. Why would I shoot something like it's 400 yards? They make us shoot a target with iron sights that far. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why would I do that?
I actually really enjoyed it because I got to expose 2 people to Leah got her first deer with the rifle.
it's awesome.
And here's the thing too. I have a suppressor on the 308 that I use, and people are like, well, why did you do that? I'm like, first off, it makes weapons more accessible to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reduces anticipation because when you're not expecting a fucking cannon to go off in your hands, you can sit there and actually have excellent trigger control because you're not closing your eyes like, oh God, it's going to go off.
Yeah.
And also, if you miss, which guess what, people, happens to everybody, most of the time the animals will still stand there.
Right.
Yep.
So it made it super accessible. The guy who makes the podcast T-shirts, he got a doe at his house, and then I was actually able to get a buck at his house. We'll leave out the details. It was legal. My feet were on the ground.
Right. The feet were on the ground.
Feet were on the ground. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? It was just more about sharing the experience. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, bow hunting is awesome for all of us, but really hard to show other people who don't bow hunt.
Absolutely.
Rifle hunting, still difficult depending on who you are, but so much more accessible to show people.
Yeah, I did a rifle hunt with my dad this year. We both killed elk up in Utah. And, I was telling you that story where, the first time my dad shot past 100 was with the 6.5. The first time he'd shot even a box-fed semi-auto fucking rifle was then as well. And it was such a different experience for him. Because we went out and we tried to shoot these 30-06s that were literally 40 years old. I had one that was my grandfather's, one that was mine, and we couldn't get them to group past 100. Imagine that.
Weird.
So we threw in, modern Seekin 6.5s, and he was shooting out to 5, 6, 7, 8 within 45 minutes. And then he went out that afternoon after zeroing his rifle and killed an elk in one shot. Literally took maybe 3 steps.
Oh, yeah.
And he was right above the heart. Like, it was no problem whatsoever. My dad was like,
And that was his first elk, right?
no, he's killed a lot of elk before. This was his first elk in probably 25, 30 years. And he got the bug again, right? He got the shooting bug again. He got back into like that head where he's like, oh shit, I can shoot out to distance. I don't need to, get my glasses and get everything ready. Like, he's like, oh, I'll take my hearing aids out. I'm already dead. I'm already deaf either way. And
Not advisable, people.
right. But it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Bolt on a can, screw on a can, and
The can, people don't understand how much it changes the experience for people.
But remember, Evan,
But also,
that
for
rifle
people,
looks like an AR, and with a suppressor, you're evil.
but also, well, here, two things on that. One, for people listening to this, don't just throw a can on your gun. Research your local regulations. 'Cause like in Montana, it was illegal for a long time.
right.
It is now legal. Don't go hunting with a suppressor on your gun unless you check to make sure. And two, the assault rifle one is, I get lost on that. I don't know what makes a rifle an assault rifle. I mean,
I don't either. Like, I don't
No,
know
I was
what's
just
classifying what. It's like,
Particularly being flippant because it's ridiculous.
what's a semi-auto box-fed fucking
that's
rifle
what classifies
at
it.
the end of the day?
Like collapsible buttstock. Yeah. Shit like that.
Yeah, we'd have to read into the regulations to exactly what it fucking looks like. But I think it's literally just the way it looks. I think that's what intimidates people. Whether or not they're classifying every semi-auto, I don't fucking know. I don't even know where you'd start to begin to unpack all that bullshit and why they even want to. I know that, that's the majority of what we have in our safes. Like, that's what we have because I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And
And they're efficient.
they're very efficient, So for us, Matt and I will go out and shoot 300 blackout or, suppress 300 blackout with fucking subs.
That sounds like a paintball gun.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience. I bought these air rifles for my kids so they could learn how to shoot because there's, virtually zero recoil,
Quiet.
zero noise. My wife she's a great pistol shooter. She hasn't shot a lot of rifle. So for her, it was like really easy entry level, like get in, start shooting, get, used to the rhythm and what's happening with this device, like how to load it, how to shoot it, how to be proficient and safe. So I don't really discriminate against any platform. Like, I shoot traditional bow, I shoot my compound bow, like, and any week in the back of our facility in Salt Lake, we've got fucking targets we can shoot out to 100 off the back deck next to the roaster.
You will
with a
find me
compound.
breaking arrows with my trad bow.
Smash them into the concrete wall. And like, for me, I've really kind of just classified myself as a projectile enthusiast because I just like to hit targets. It's what I like to fucking do.
Same.
And it doesn't really matter. Like, I've got muzzleloaders, I've got fucking the whole nine.
That's one I haven't gotten into.
It's fun.
Did you get into that just because it gave you access to a different season?
No, I grew up shooting black powder.
Did you
Yeah, I
really?
grew up. So we used to go to these black powder rendezvous.
Like the full on just...
Yeah. How I learned how to shoot was with a black powder rifle. That's how I learned how to shoot. My grandfather, my father, my uncle, everybody shot black powder at black powder rendezvous. So we go out.
What is a black powder rendezvous?
It's a mountain man festival.
It is. It's a Mountain Man Festival. That's all it is.
Brokeback Mountain Man Festival.
Well, I mean, no, not exactly that definition.
But like partially.
Mostly.
Kinda,
maybe. I'm sure there was some of that going on. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, I grew up, it was a 32 caliber black powder rifle. I had a little fucking powder horn and, loading it up with your ball and your patch and wearing what's called a capote, which is this old wool fucking robe looking thing.
Fuck yes.
And sleeping in teepees and shit. You go out into the mountains and you do these things called trail walks, and you'd walk around and you'd compete against other shooters in a trail walk. So you'd have like tomahawk and knife throwing stations and fucking shooting stations with pistol and rifle. And so as a kid, it was awesome because you'd compete in fire starting competitions, tomahawk and knife throws, shooting, 32 caliber muzzleloader rifle.
This is what I see Tim's school looking like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the way
This
I
is
see it.
orientation for his school.
This is orientation.
Orientation week.
Knife sharpening, all this kind of weird random shit that we would do. And it was so much fun for a kid because you could just let your imagination run wild when you were, 6, 7, 8 years old, cruising around in the mountains with like moccasins and a fucking wool robe basically and a powder horn. You got your own rifle. And
I feel like I need a powder horn now.
dude, it's rad. It's so much fun because
could you fill it with like whiskey?
Yeah, you could. You could
All
fill
right,
it with
perfect.
anything you want. It's going to leak all over the place and probably make you smell like booze the entire time. But nonetheless, it's super fun. Whoever won would go to, they'd spread out these big fucking blankets, and then the person that got first pick. So you'd all have to donate. So whoever's in this competition, you have to donate something. And then the person that's first gets first pick, and then they'd start going down through the list. And it
To
was
the victor go the spoils.
exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's how I learned how to fucking shoot a rifle.
Have you ever hunted black powder?
No, I mean pheasant.
I've watched the meat eater dude. Dude, why can't I think of his name
Steve?
right now? Steve Brunelli, yeah. Yeah, I think he was after, it was mule deer or something like that.
Right. It's different. It's a different experience. I think you've got modern muzzleloaders, which are different than kind of the traditional where you have your ramrod and horn, all this other stuff, and you got ball, so it's straight up lead. I remember, my grandfather making like lead balls, so he had a little smelter, or smelter, where he'd be pouring and making his balls and knocking them out, and
doing his
the
little
whole
Patriot thing.
Yeah, it was pretty rad, man. Because as a kid, you had all that crazy mountain man shit going on at the same time. Like all these dudes were working in the woods, so I would go out and shoot either my 22 or my 32, and most of the time, like I had free access to the 32 because there's not much you can fucking mess up with that thing. It's you got to put the cap on back, set the trigger. So you'd have a trigger set. You have two triggers. So one sets it, one fucking shoots it. It's fucking wild, man. It's a wild experience.
No NDs with that.
No, you're not gonna get. Well, you will.
You certainly could, but you got to put some more effort. It's
You
going to
got
be
to put a lot of effort into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you really do.
You got the jiu-jitsu itch yet? I know we were texting about it.
Oh yeah.
You haven't done it,
He did it for a while.
A little, yeah.
right?
He was there when Dudley's neck was broken by Jocko.
I have really good pictures of the whole event.
Do you really?
Oh yeah,
And he no shit like broke his neck.
part of it.
How did he do that?
I mean, he held him down, and then he just jumped up and down on his throat.
Okay.
That's Jocko doesn't want to tell that
what
story.
That's what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember.
No, he was doing a choke that involved your entire fist on the Adam's apple,
Right.
and then applying pressure through your sternum. And Dudley, because he's not a jiu-jitsu practitioner, put his massive fucking man arms behind his back and pulled Jocko into him, which increased
Got
the
it.
amount of pressure until I believe it was the hyoid bone, had a little bit of a crack in it.
Holy shit.
But we were both there. I had only been at it for a few months then, and we were scrapping around and fucking around, and I've been texting him about it ever since. I'm sure there's an awesome jiu-jitsu scene down in Salt Lake.
It's the same time frame that we were teaching Dud to skydive.
That's
That
right.
was the same time period. It was actually the same weekend because we did.
And it was the same day we put Jocko and his kids in the tunnel.
Yep.
Entertaining.
We did because we did that archery event.
That was all
right.
that same weekend.
Yeah, it was all the same weekend.
Yeah.
We did the archery event. That's where
Comedy
I
show.
met you.
Yep. Oh, we did the
Yeah.
comedy show at
Yeah, we did
Pachanga
Joe's comedy show because he came down to the
to the archery thing.
to the archery thing. Yep. Yeah, that was all the same weekend.
Oh my God.
That was a fucking whirlwind.
It was because we were trying. Actually, you were at the tunnel with Jocko.
Yeah.
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 That was
I
like
saw him trying to dominate the air.
that was the whole team.
No, he got
was there.
dominated by
Barklow
the-
was there.
like this is how I explain to people how Jocko likes to free fall. It's like I'm gonna capture all of this air.
You will submit.
You will submit, air. Which was fucking awesome. It was,
That whole weekend was awesome.
yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I forgot that was all. For
And,
some reason, I had like partitioned.
We stayed at Bob's place.
You stayed
for
at
dinner.
Mom's place. I stayed at my brother-in-law and sister's house in Oceanside.
That was a fun couple days.
Yeah, we need to do more shit like that when the world allows us to do fun shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're not on lockdown, when we don't have to stay in home and wear our masks
Or bending
good
knees to
citizens. Yeah,
the
we're
What's your
universe.
over/under for when you think things will be relaxed
oh,
or back to
gosh.
semi-normal?
Dude, your guess is as good as mine.
Your next
on
appointment
this.
with Tim Kennedy, 2037 at 3 a.m.
My guess is Q3 21.
Yeah, I think we're going to be. I think this next year is going to be a fucking shit
Ridiculous.
show. I think it's going to be a shit show.
Well-
I think you're going to have rolling shutdowns. I think you're going to have mask mandates and travel fucking lockdowns. You're going to have all the kind of shit that we were seeing in the beginning of this. You're going to have it again.
Well, and they're looking at, you just look at the rollout dates for vaccine, right? Like general public isn't till next summer, maybe.
What are your thoughts on taking a brand new vaccine?
I've done that one once, right, with the anthrax vaccine. You remember that one before the invasion of Iraq?
Yeah.
And with kind of the long-term health effects that's kind of yielding, I'm a little bit skeptical. Imagine that, being a skeptic in today's day and age, just not gulping it down. Anything that you kind of rush to market, I think everybody should be a little bit skeptical of. But I think that there's probably a percentage of the population that, obviously the really at-risk portion of our population, if it helps get small and medium-sized businesses back up and running, I'm all for it. Like, if that's what it takes, let's get fucking small and medium-sized businesses up and running, because
And
this has been devastating.
from the doctors and researchers that I personally know, they've all said that from what they've read and seen, none of the steps have been cut short. What this is going to do is actually help on the back end, other vaccines and other research go further faster.
Right.
Because a lot of the bureaucratic red tape, which is what takes so many of these vaccines so long,
They were able to cut through it.
they've been chopping it, because this is now a worldwide thing, as opposed to that's that country's problem, that's this country's problem.
Right.
So based on what they're saying, no, I don't want to be first in line, because I can be paranoid at times, but
But you're also at one of the lowest risk categories as well. And I
Also
agree with you.
true.
Like, if you're at a high risk, I'm also very skeptical. I had that same series of vaccinations offered to me. I squirted them in the garbage can.
Right.
Full disclosure. But yeah, I don't actually want to be first in line. I think people should do their own risk assessment on that one. And if for a high risk category, fuck yes, they should prioritize those people. But if you're ultra low risk, there might be some benefit to giving a little bit of time in the saddle to see how that thing plays out.
But I don't ascribe to the tinfoil hat. They're putting microchips, or this is going to absolutely kill you or turn you into an
they've already
autistic crazy
done
person. Like
what they
look,
needed to do.
back
They
the
changed
fucking
the
train
batteries
up.
out in the Seagulls, right? They're all fucking out now. So
Look, Andy,
yeah.
that's a secret we were supposed to keep. The birds aren't real.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a while to switch out all the batteries.
It does. I mean, there's a lot of birds.
They
But
said it was 2
they're
weeks,
almost
and 9
hands.
months.
No,
I hope they find a medical solution for it. I really do. I mean, we were walking down Main Street, Kalispell. I was pointing out to you that it used to be a fly shop, and now it's this massive cavernous space. And I can only imagine, even here, where economically, the price of commercial real estate's got to be lower. But I can only imagine the monthly nut on that place and how much foot traffic you would need. I mean, come on.
Well, I think when I really look at it, and I look at kind of the consolidation of business between what's happening, right? So when we look at just we were talking about the logistics of it, just from an e-com perspective, limiting how many packages small and medium-sized businesses can ship out over holiday season because of COVID, and in consolidating between basically the two main retailers in the United States, which is Walmart and Amazon, this will be catastrophic for small and medium-sized businesses. A lot of these people, if they're a small e-com company, they're going to try to collect 50% of their revenue over holiday season. So if you can't ship packages, you can't get your packages to people in time.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge impact.
And what's their solution? Bend the knee to Amazon and just put your shit on an Amazon marketplace and give them part of your money?
No, that's. I mean, for right now,
That's
I think
literally all they can do.
That's all they can do.
Yep. Or go out of business.
Or go out of business. So what we're seeing is the death of small and medium-sized businesses. That's what's happening.
And the solidification of massive businesses.
So when we do the long play on this in a purely kind of pessimistic look, you would see
It's just realistic.
consolidation of retail into the two main retailers, right? Two main big box retailers. People moving their professions from what they might do in a mom and pop retail store or local type retail establishment. They would be moving to more of a fulfillment type job. So when we look at this 1984 Orwellian,
What's that fucking noise? Did I leave the AC on again?
Probably.
I don't think
It's
so.
probably just got started. Oh yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was like,
That's the second time I've done that. People actually enjoyed it the first time I did it. They're like, yeah, dude, keep leaving the AC brakes in. No idea why, but most of the guys are like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm like, yeah, I know.
You left it on?
I don't know. I thought it was off.
That's all right.
We've been at this for a while and it didn't come on.
A bit. That's okay.
I don't know why it had to come on now. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with this thing.
But that is what's going on. Is you're looking at one of the largest transferences of wealth and ability in human history.
Yeah. Well,
It's getting flipped right over. I mean, multi-digit percentage point growth in personal capital for people that already have more than $50 billion.
That's a good number.
That's insane. And they're getting multiple digit percentage points.
And, and I have this debate because of, I'm a capitalist. I mean, I believe in the system. I have this debate because there's I think a distinct difference between the free market capitalist and then ultimately the cards are completely, the deck is completely stacked. So when we look at the deck is completely stacked over on the corporate side, they have billions of dollars to essentially yield the outcome they desire. And we would be foolish to think that they're not stacking the deck in their favor to take advantage of a scenario like this where they can drive out their competitors on a large scale level. I think everybody would be a little bit remiss and a little bit foolish to think that that wouldn't be an end game, regardless of what they think. That is an end game. So how do you do it? Do you go into a monopoly busting or trust busting type scenario where you're breaking these entities up? I don't know. I mean, truly, I don't know what the right answer is in this. I know that we feel it because we talk to a ton of smaller veteran-owned e-com businesses. We hear it, we feel it from a large-scale perspective, just in our own limitation of packages, and we can't really compete. We can't compete with Amazon or Walmart or their.
Is there anybody that can?
I don't think so at this point. It's kind of like the algorithm on social media. We're never going to be able to unring that bell.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to pull ourselves out of this, and I don't know how we're going to pull retail back from COVID, put it back into the hands of more localized establishments.
Well, the only way is like you just described, which won't happen because K Street is too strong.
Right.
Antitrust is the only way to make that a thing. And if they don't ring that bell, then too fucking bad for everybody else, apparently. And the worst part, people want to be a victim. They want to say the cards are getting stacked against us. No. It's far worse.
Right.
They're not spending any of their intellectual time thinking about stacking cards against you, and I mean you being any business owner or person. They're thinking only about stacking more cards in their deck. That's it. It's far worse. They're just stacking more. More. It's not against you because they couldn't give a shit. You don't matter. That's the problem. People don't see it. They're like, I have so much against me. Like, no. They have so much for them.
Right.
That's the like you're in a race riding a bicycle against an F1 car. And every time you get somebody to help you with your tire, they get another F1 car.
Right.
That's how this is working.
Yeah, I don't think I could not be convinced to open a brick and mortar pure retail store selling just one thing on Main Street, Kalispell.
Yeah.
To me, it would seem like the riskiest of gambles.
Yeah.
With uncertainty.
Except masks.
Okay, I hadn't really considered that.
Selling masks.
Maybe.
Designer masks.
Yeah,
Designer
maybe.
masks.
But I mean, who's going to feel comfortable pursuing that path after 18 months of just having it shoved down their throat?
Yeah.
And then the property holders, the people that actually own the property, that are renting out the space, the long-term effects of this, you can't print enough money to get yourself out of this hole. When I say that, it's like if people understand how inflation works and devaluing the dollar, these schemes don't fucking work. You can't print more money to pay for the debt of some dimwit that wants to go get a Venetian glass blowing degree or PhD that can't get a job for above $15.50 an hour. Like, you can't print enough money to recover from that plan. It's not a plan. And what people don't even understand is that it's already controlled by the government. It's consolidated to 3 different type of financial institutions that are controlled by the government right now. So they've consolidated essentially a financial monopoly around the education system. And the government already has done that. So now what the next step is, they're like, well, we just want debt forgiveness for this. It's like, so you're going to make it everybody else's problem that you can't get a job with your degree. Meanwhile, we're going to shut down small and medium-sized businesses. We're going to consolidate people back to their homes. You got to wear a fucking mask. You can't go out. You can't buy anything other than from an e-com store. So it's like the only jobs that you're going to be able to acquire will be from a big box retailer. And those are going to be lower paying jobs. They're not going to be high paying jobs. So it really doesn't look and fucking sunny.
And people aren't seeing even some of the second and third order effects. Like, there's 2 small businesses in Mill Creek that I've been to. One of them is somebody that sells olive oil and eggs, like farm fresh eggs. Yeah, well, they stopped doing it because they can't keep their employees, because it's more lucrative for their employees to be on unemployment than it is for them to be getting the pay that they were getting paid.
Yeah.
I know some people like that as well.
That's fucking insane.
It was actually one of the most financially beneficial times for them is when they had stopped working.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
it's dangerous precedent set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you incentivize
Where do you think
people?
that's coming from? Like, does everybody just believe that money's just getting printed? Like, it's just magic money?
Well, no, what is going to happen, I mean, is
it's not debt forgiveness, it's debt aggregation.
Yeah.
They're just spreading it out across a larger sample size than one.
Yeah. And so it becomes everybody else's issue.
Yeah.
And that's where for me, there's a definitive argument for less government equals more freedom. That's what it is. Less government equals more freedom, which also means you have to assume more personal responsibility for your actions. And it's contradictory to human behavior. There's a huge percentage, I think, of our population where they don't want more freedom. I think they proved that in the post 9/11, what was the
Patriot Act?
Yeah, the Patriot Act.
I was going to say willingly, but I don't believe the vast majority of people truly understood the breadth and depth of the reach, or what could be more aptly described as overreach by the intelligence apparatus. I don't think a lot of people really knew.
It's complicated, and it's really detailed and complicated, and it shifts around, and ultimately you can't really track even legal liability when it comes to it, and who's enforcing what, and what's constitutional, what isn't constitutional. That's why it's so fucking dangerous to forfeit liberty to people that don't have your best interest at heart. Like, that is the danger of all of this. When people are just so willingly able to accept a forfeiture of their rights, that's what scares me. Like, that really scares me, because people need to be able to push back. People need to be skeptics as to what the intentions are of the government, especially with so much corporate interest. When you have guys like that that are out there, whether they're, rich financiers like Bloomberg or some of these other dudes that are pumping billions of dollars into essentially experiments that people don't even want in order to shift the dialogue, that's fucking dangerous. And for us as a society, especially a free society, that's not the way we should be functioning, at least from my perspective. Like, who the fuck is Bill Gates? Like, who is he? He built a fucking goddamn computer. Why are we listening to this dude on vaccines? Because he funded some vaccine research in Africa? What pedestal do people put these billionaires on, and why? What tech oligarch is got your best interest at heart, and what have they really developed that has really benefited individual freedom? I mean, they're the guys that created this fucking garbage that people are consumed and gaslit on 24 hours a day, and they're self-admitting.
You mean the personal tracking device?
Yeah, they're self-admitting that it's wrong, it's unethical. Oh, so we should listen to them more, for sure. We should buy into more of their bullshit, because they don't have an objective in all this to make more money. And I think we're all fools if just blanketly accept whatever a billionaire says because they're a billionaire.
I think you should never blanketly accept what anybody says.
Fuck no.
A critical eye and, objective reasoned thought, powerful tool.
It's a very powerful tool. But if we eliminate the ability to even explore through Socratic method or logical debate, that's when it's easier for, I think, society to be exploited. I've talked a lot about this on the military-industrial complex and how it financially benefits from war. You can't have an entity that has so much influence in Washington that directly financially benefits from war, funding think tanks that directly validate
it's a vicious ecosystem.
Doing more war.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at the entire corporate structure as far as the money and influence in politics, we've got to really look and unpack all of that. The best thing that we can do is be very skeptical and debate it and not just swallow it down like mindless lemmings. And that's what I think. I think that's what we see is just this massive ability for people to group think across the board. They want to just go, oh, well, Joe and Kamala, they're good people. We're just going to have to do what they say. It's like, okay, yeah, good idea. Wow. Like you guys have done really well for yourself on this because you're not willing to push back. You're not willing to push against the establishment. And that happens on both sides, whether you're, left or right.
Sure.
And it's part of the two-party system as well.
And both groups are saying things like, I've heard this statement, and maybe you guys have heard it, but they say, oh, no, electing a president or, politics is a lot like getting on the bus. It might not be going exactly where you want, but you still have to get closer to where you're going. I'm like, no, the fuck I don't.
No. You can walk.
I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna buy a bicycle. Like there's all sorts of other ways around this. And by saying that, you are devaluing a large group of people, multiple groups of people, and their opinions. You vote third party, like you're the enemy. You're helping the other person win.
Yeah, both parties use the third party as the scapegoat for, well, you're hurting fill in the blank.
Yeah, you are. You know what? You're taking votes away from that person's ability to maintain their seat in an elected spot and make money off of you. Yeah, that's what you're doing. And you know what? Fuck them. They're a public servant. They're a public servant.
But
right now, are they? No. Now they're a public leech. I mean, we have senators and congressmen and women that are millionaires.
Yeah.
Not by their own strength and guile, only because they know people on K Street.
I really don't think you should be allowed to be a career politician. Like, I think it's a bad sign if you've been in politics for longer than you've been out of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very, very bad sign.
Yeah, or, if you're old enough to be a senator and vote on an issue in Vietnam.
For one, I mean, I don't know that many politicians. The only one I actually know directly is Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm very wary of anybody who actually wants to go into that path. Because historically, I'm not impressed with what I see people who make that. I mean, perhaps some of them are not trying to make it an occupation, but I am not impressed with the people that I see who have made it an occupation.
Well, I think it de-incentivizes people because they learn how to work the fucking levers in Washington, right?
Yeah.
They learn the system, and then the system really becomes hard for anybody new to really understand.
Yeah.
So when you have 40, 30, whatever plus years in a profession where ultimately who's holding you accountable? Your voters, but you can individually profit. I mean, for a long time, I'm somewhat aware of this, but there wasn't insider trading laws, for instance. So you could pass legislation and you could individually profit from the legislation that you were passing, and you wouldn't be fucking rung up on insider trading. Well, how is that possible? Because we force bank executives to go through strict audits for insider trading, but we don't force the people that work
writing
for
the
us
fucking
writing
laws.
the fucking laws. Like,
Yeah, when was the last time one of them went to jail for that, or was even indicted?
good God, I don't fucking know. I mean,
Yeah,
they run
there's your
up
problem.
Flynn on that bullshit charge from, I don't know, like 1790 or some shit that they pulled out of their thin air. Who is being termed Who's being termed for this? Like when you look at this entire shit show for the last...
But remember, they're there for you.
Yeah.
They're just not, though. Why can't we have an honest conversation about that?
What, they're not there for us?
Yeah.
No,
They're not.
Zero. Sorry. I'm sure some of you are good people, but
I'm all in favor of term limits for politicians at
They have
every
to.
single level.
term limits or I think one of the best suggestions I heard from, in my mind, a very good friend of mine, he said, you know what? We should make it either exceptionally lucrative or literally you only get a stipend. So you should just get a stipend to live, or
Right.
it's fucking public housing in DC.
Yeah.
Right? That's acceptable. Or you get paid $1.5 million, $2 million. You get paid enough so that you're going to attract people from schools that would have otherwise been a CEO candidate at a large corporation, right? You want to either attract the best and brightest or people that only want to serve.
And then there should be a minimum and maximum age,
Yeah.
for the love of God.
And the horse shit that we have going on now is we're going to pay you enough so you're pretty comfortable. We're also going to make this so incredibly confusing that you can get away with almost anything. FYI, if you say the right thing to your constituents, you can be here for fucking ever.
Well, I was talking to Dan the other day about this.
The one-eyed pirate hooker.
Congressman. Yeah, congressman. Yeah,
The
congressman.
one-eyed pirate
and-
hooker congressman
And
From Texas.
from Texas.
he said, you know, people have this perception of there's just massive amounts of corruption throughout the entire political system, which is that's not inaccurate. You have it's inaccurate. It's like you have a blanket amount of corrupt people working within a system, which is different because it's not a corrupt system. The
Yeah.
system is actually fairly
The people
well
running the levers
defined.
are the corrupt ones.
Right, and they have ill intention, and some people have the best of intentions, but the best of intentions sometimes fucking pave the road to hell. So you've got all these different people with conflicting ideologies, and they're all fucking battling it out within this system that ultimately they're saying in very Machiavellian terms, the means justify the end. And then you have obviously, you know, a separate entity of people that are wielding, you know, real cash to influence the outcome.
Yeah.
He's one of the only people, I think, that, from my perspective, has true leadership. And I'm not making it, you know, the Dan Crenshaw fucking I love you podcast, but he does exemplify real leadership. He understands what it's like to be deployed in the severities of war. He understands what it's like to be a veteran. He understands what it's like to be an academic. He's got a lot of experience-based knowledge that he brings to the table. I would find it very hard to believe that there's a lot of people in Congress or Senate that have that guy's life experience just in general.
I'd have to assume the Republican Party has got him on a trajectory.
God, I would hope so. You know, I mean, if
If they had any common fucking sense, they would.
they would. They absolutely would.
Well, yeah, but they'll wait 50 years. They'll wait till he's like 75 because that seems to be the common
I think
choose right now.
we're prepared as a country for somebody who's not pushing being an octogenarian or whatever the fuck that is, and
who hasn't been a
80-year-old,
card-carrying AARP member for 20 years.
I think we're ready. I mean,
I think, yeah.
you know,
I would love to see that debate, right, between AOC and Dan, right? They were both freshmen congressmen, and just these are the kind of for us to grow as a society. I think congressmen and senators should be able to challenge other senators to an open forum debate that is televised at any point in time, and you have to go. It's like, fuck you, let's get on the debate stage.
Your ideas suck, but we're going to have an economy of ideas and let good ideas rise to the top.
Yes, exactly. And we'll let the citizens decide based on how good you are at articulating these facts. But and you could call it kind of a modern day political duel, if you will. You know, not like Alexander Hamilton getting fucking smoked.
Also, though, that would kind of be sweet as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, a fucking good old-fashioned duel
Might round the edges on people running their fucking sucks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Burr.
yeah, exactly. And I think that would emphasize a healthy dialogue throughout the United States. I think if we as citizens were like, hey, this is what we expect of you motherfuckers. At any point in time, somebody challenges you to an intellectual duel, you got to throw down.
Yeah.
Sorry. Too bad. You owe it to the public. Obviously there might be a limit to how many of those you would have to do, but at the end of the day, we should expect that from our politicians, because I think people would start to see a more well-rounded and skeptical view of what's happening. And then when they see their fucking favorite politician just implode and fucking start on fire intellectually because they're dumb as fuck, they'd be like, oh God, I can't vote this person back in.
I mean, shouldn't that be the litmus test for what comes out of their mouth? It should be able to withstand the scrutiny of the public specter and the pressure of somebody pushing back on those ideas.
Yeah, and you should have a round table or a town hall where people are coming in and talking about these ideas openly. I think that that's what happens with this two-party system is people get locked into their echo chambers. They don't have any accountability other to their voters, and then they continue to talk to their voters and the people in their party, and it just goes around, 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 and they're both talking at each other, but they're not talking towards each other in a logical series of debates. But I think that is a forcing function to increasing people's awareness to what's actually happening on policy. Like, if we would have had a group of congressmen and senators debating Iraq on a fucking...
Might have had a slightly different outcome.
I don't think we would have gone.
I don't think we would have either.
Nope.
I don't think... Afghanistan was unavoidable.
Agreed.
Unavoidable. But to increase troop levels in Afghanistan to a conventional occupying force, there should have been a long fucking national conversation about what was going on and the long-term effects of what this plays out, what it looks like, what is the strategic value of Afghanistan, what is the strategic value of Iraq. Pull back the curtain.
What's the strategic value of Syria?
Yeah. What's the strategic value of Syria?
Fuck?
At the end of the day, you might come out with a lot of different options that people, it might unsettle their comfort level and break them out of their box.
And then in that process, I would hope that they would grow as human beings, and therefore our society would continue to evolve.
Yeah, and we might even get a third party in this, which I think would probably fucking be one of the best things that we could have in this country is a viable third party, because it forces accountability on both ends versus these guys can, at the end of the day, they can start cutting deals.
They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can do whatever they want.
I think... one of probably the most important things that we have to do, even in the next few weeks, right? I mean, Georgia's the battleground state, right? I mean, Georgia is where everything will be determined. So if we think that it's going to be blue all the way through, man, that does not look good. I think when you have blue all the way through, there's a lot of things that can happen really fucking fast that would have a direct impact on our daily lives, and that would be pretty fucking scary for, Team Red not to be able to block that through filibuster, to maintain the majority. Jared just got back from Georgia. We were helping Dan film his next commercial, so we helped him on the first one, and we're helping him on the second one too. And that's because we fucking truly do believe in Dan, and kind of made the best ideas win. But I think that anytime you have that fucking just long corridor of nothing but bad ideas fucking rolling through the halls, that's when things start to get really wonky, when there's no checks and balances.
I was just going to say that absent the ability to have a check and balance.
It's not even bad ideas. You're looking at something a little bit scarier, which is lockstep party line voting. You look at the voting history of the House and the Senate, and from when it started till now, right? And the lockstep voting has become almost routine.
Meaning they will only vote party lines.
Only vote party line or abstain. Mm-hmm. And that's hyper rare to abstain. And people get hammered for it.
Yeah.
Which is weird. There is no way that the constituents, by majority, of every one of those public servants, counties or states, is telling them to vote exactly the way that they're doing, lockstep on every single vote for the last 35 years. There's no fucking way. That is not how this works. That cannot be possible just statistically. Right? So what we're seeing is a two-party system where both parties control They're congressmen and women and they're senators, and they do what they want. That's it. They're not there for you. The only way to make this happen a little more constructively is to get a third party in, where now one of those two parties has to play a fucking game where they need that other party to help them out. And you know what happens? You get a little bit more discourse.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the thorn in the side is a problem for those guys over there or these guys over here, you're going to want them on your side. And if that's what it takes, that's what has to happen. Otherwise, we're going to maintain this lockstep approach, and we're going to walk ourselves right to hell. Not we. They will walk the rest of us all the way there.
Let's go find a ship with some tea on it. Kick this shit off.
It's tough for me to stomach the professional sports atmosphere of the political spectrum now.
Hey, well, fortunately, we're going to have at least 6 months of it off because I'm sure the fucking 2024 election will start in June.
Yeah, it will.
God.
Yeah, 2024 is going to start like
These
tomorrow.
people are not...
Tomorrow. We're
To be
never
honest,
going to end
I'm
this.
so saturated with it. I'm just like, fucking stop.
All I was just like, man, like I had to turn all politics off. Like
Yeah.
a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, whenever it was. And I just had to tune it the fuck out because it's just, it's so fucking depressing at times where you're like, all right, I got to turn this off. I got to like do something else. Unfortunately, I had to step right back into it, for a combination of reasons.
That was your own choice. I mean, you chose to sponsor Kyle, so...
God, no.
It was a small package.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I have taken a lot of fucking heat for my stance with that kid.
Really?
It's, I've been pretty open and honest about it. One, I don't think he had any business being there. I don't argue that, the actions he took were, it appears to be in self-defense. But my issue with the whole thing is it was fucking avoidable. And there is a difference between a 17-year-old kid, which happens very infrequently, going into the military, and a 17-year-old kid who has self-admittedly executed the purchase of that rifle via straw man purchase with his stimulus money. His 18-year-old friend bought it for him and gave it to him. And again, that the legal system can handle that. I'm not going to put a value judgment on that. It's either legal or illegal.
Right.
Goes to that environment. And the thing is, I can understand why he would want to make a difference, but where's the leadership around him? Where's his parents? Where are the people who are saying, hey, you know what? You're not in the military. It's not your job or responsibility to do this. I can understand him wanting to be there and make a difference. And a lot of people have said, well, the people he killed were felons. I'm like, yeah, he didn't fucking know that in the moment, though. And even if he did know that, it still doesn't make those actions justifiable just on that front alone. Like he was making decisions absent that information. Whether or not he acted in self-defense, that'll be handled in the courtroom. Like I said, my own personal opinion after watching the videos, it seems that he was. But it was all avoidable.
Well, exactly.
All fucking avoidable, man.
If you go to a bar tonight looking to make sure that nobody does anything stupid and you get involved in a fight, you weren't there to start. What preceded you going there, even if the end result is you stopped a bully from doing something bad, right? Now, I just broke that down into something very soft. But that kid precipitating that entire event was a long thought process and discourse with other people, right? He didn't do this in a vacuum. And everybody that's like, oh, you're not standing up for 2A. Like, you know what?
I couldn't stand up more for the 2A.
Or
guess what? Self-defense, which is a weird comment that was on your Instagram. Like, yeah, we know you believe in the Second Amendment, but do you believe in self-defense? It's like, that's a fucking rhetorical question.
Yeah,
But all these guys that are out there, screaming you have to defend the 2A. Like, where were you that day or that evening when a 17-year-old kid showed up? And if you're so pro 2A, you should know the fucking legality of him owning that firearm and stop him and pull him aside and like, hey, man, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why, Where was the leadership there? Where was the community effort in helping him? He could have avoided this entire scenario. An actual adult, and I'm saying that because he wasn't an adult, could have pulled him aside and said, hey, man, we're really stoked you're here. You really shouldn't have that here. Go ahead and put it away. And you know what he wouldn't have done? He might not have walked down that street. he might not have ended up getting into a scenario where he had to run and then defend himself with a weapon he shouldn't have had at an event he shouldn't have had the thing. You know, the leadership is a community effort. We don't operate in vacuums. And I really feel for that kid, because he was allowed to operate in a manner that was purely crowd-funded. They
And the actions
they
can't be
intellectually
taken back.
no,
You know?
they allowed this like intellectual crowdfunding and groupthink to go on. Like, yeah. You know what? Yeah. Works fantastic. Very little.
And
You know,
there's
you
other
see-
issues too. I mean, let's be honest, the state and federal government should have handled that issue long before
I think,
Yes.
anybody else was in the streets to have to handle that. And again,
I like to go even
Out of
further
control.
back to where your point is,
Yeah.
which is these riots should have never been allowed to take place in the first place.
correct.
Like there should have never been a circumstance where
They shouldn't have gone this far.
civilians felt like they had to defend themselves. There should have never been a circumstance. And what happens is that now the onus or the reliability, or not reliability, the what everything is basically resting on this kid, that ultimately it wasn't his responsibility to stabilize and prevent. It was the responsibility of the state and the local government, and they failed in that.
Yeah.
So where is the accountability before this entire thing
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
Where is that
That's left
responsibility?
completely out of
It's
the
left-
conversation.
It is.
The state and city failed both groups.
Both
and
groups.
then his community failed him.
Nobody should have felt.
This shouldn't have happened.
No person in their community should have
Precisely.
felt like they had to go and defend property against people that were going to destroy it, against criminals that were going to destroy their property.
Yeah.
What happened, I truly believe, is these local municipalities, they didn't stand up because they were afraid.
They didn't push back.
They didn't push back. They didn't want to take accountability for what was going to happen in this
And these are-
volatile situation.
And those were a lot of elected officials that people in those municipalities are paying to not do anything.
And so when we go back to
Because they
these
wanna get
things where-
reelected.
yeah, they want to get reelected. There's nobody standing up
No.
there taking accountability for that and
No.
say, this is my fault this ever happened. This should have never happened.
Yeah,
in
you
the
don't
first
see the
place.
mayor going,
Let's just,
I'm really sorry he felt
Let-
like he needed to defend himself.
where is the mayor in this? Where are the local and state officials that are resigning because this entire thing went down?
Yeah.
People should not be permitted to just burn down fucking
No.
businesses,
We
especially
should,
in
we
this
should
climate.
be seeing city councils stepping down.
Yes. Not saying
We're
let's
calling for
let's
town halls every
defund-
day. Like, let's fix this as a
They
group.
shouldn't be saying let's defund the police. That's the solution. Oh well, that worked. Did you see how well that worked? It worked
Fantastically.
really fucking well.
In the end, I feel terrible for Kyle, and people can love or hate him. It's not about that. It's about the fact that a 17-year-old kid was thrust into an environment, whether voluntarily or absent good leadership, whatever you want to describe it, he ended up there. And before even hitting the age of a legal adult, he was involved in something that's going to impact his life for the rest of his life. And I feel for him because it was completely and utterly fucking avoidable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You cannot revoke what happened.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have happened from him being there to him purchasing it, to the community, to the municipality stopping Molotov cocktails going through windows, right? As far back as you want to step this, that's as far back as you can look at it, as this is not just the actions of a single person doing one thing that caused all of it, right?
He's not to blame for
This isn't just his fault for being in the scenario. This is fucking everybody's fault. This is a
everybody's fault.
nightmare of a community failure.
Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I've thought about this a lot over the last few years, because when guys were going under scrutiny for war crimes, for instance, like, okay, so where is the accountability of our senators and our congressmen in the former White House for putting the soldiers to begin with in that circumstance?
And profiting off of it.
Correct. So where is the accountability there? Like, why is this 18-year-old kid, this 19-year-old kid or Marine, that group of Marines that were tried a few years ago,
That's right.
they shouldn't have been there to begin with. So why were they there? And if we all sat there, we've all did I think have we all done, were you Iraq or just Afghanistan?
Just Afghanistan.
Not that it means anything. I'm just, being in Iraq for 4.5 years, give or take.
It means something. They were very different countries, for sure. It was a different experience.
Very different experience. And, thinking about the accountability of every one of our elected officials that has ultimately landed us there, and then thinking about the long-term effects in the Middle East, thinking about, I go back to that simple meme of the kid on the bus, that Simpsons character where he's like, I'm in danger. It's like the Middle East is that kid, because now when we look at the political establishment that could possibly step in, looking at how people are held accountable, and they're not, because they're absolutely not held accountable. We're teeing other soldiers to go over at 18 years old to burden the responsibility of combat actions and then make very definitive choices that are make or break with a non-fully developed brain as you're getting fucking shot at and watching your fucking buddies get blown up. I don't know, maybe people need to have a little bit more empathy in those situations for the individual and why did they end up there to begin with, and then follow the chain of accountability, because that's the way every fucking corporation in America works. I don't get to just fucking opt out of something stupid that my employees do. I don't get to do that. I have to take accountability and I have to take action. So there is a long-term effect, I think, of politicians not being held accountable and ultimately being able to lie, because, that's what they do. They get to just fucking lie, and they get to spin whatever narrative they want, and they can dig themselves out of the hole by winning favor in a news cycle or whatever it might be. It's truly, when I look at this and I say, when we look at even the Benghazi incident, some of the bigger incidents that have happened in our fucking near history, why were those guys duking it out for their lives on the rooftop in Benghazi? What were the actions that led up to that event?
Yeah. Or the lack of actions.
Lack of actions. What were the things that we could have done to prevent that from happening earlier on? And where are the elected officials stepping into the hole going, this is my fault, not their fault. Don't blame them. This is my fault. Not one person all the way up the fucking chain of command took responsibility for that.
It was actually the opposite.
It was exactly the opposite. People didn't get fired. People didn't get their clearances revoked. People didn't get fucking moved. They didn't go to jail. They said, it's not my fault.
Yeah, they jumped out of the way like there was a runaway train coming at them.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, which tells me they're all selfish, self-entitled, and they have one objective. The people are like individual grains of sand on the sidewalk that they're walking to get to where they need to go. That's all they're doing. Wow, did I just depress you?
I'm thinking. This is my thinking face.
That's your pensive thinking face.
Yeah,
it's a great stocking cap. It really is.
Your wife nailed it. This is from our bear trip last year?
No, moose.
Moose? Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know because I didn't fucking see a moose the entire time.
I did last day.
Yeah, good for you. I hope you missed.
Last day. No, I didn't.
I hope the meat spoiled. I hope the meat spoiled before you got to it.
I
and you get trichinosis.
We both ran it across the border.
Mm-hmm. We'll
hope you didn't declare it and the Canadian Mounties come and find you.
Well, shit. Is that it, Andy?
Break until tomorrow? We still have tomorrow.
Too. Round one. Exactly.
What time is your guys' flight tomorrow?
Complete. I don't know.
Mike, I think, fuck, I don't even know. I don't even know what time our flight is.
Daytime.
Yeah. Daytime? It's noon, I think, give or take.
Perfect. We can hit another one in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not?
I think we've been at it for 2.5 anyway.
Have we really?
Closing thoughts, Trevor? When are you starting jiu-jitsu? Good answer. Closing thoughts, Evan?
Sounds like tonight.
Travis wouldn't give a fuck. He'd be like, sign the. I just had the Christensen Arms crew.
Yeah,
I think I have signed the waiver already.
They came up and
maybe
like,
twice.
Andy said he wants to roll with this. Is that okay? And he just shakes his head. He's like, go sign the fucking waiver.
Yeah, go sign the waiver.
Good job, dummy.
That's the first. And then I actually, after the experience with Jocko, I have a conversation like, do you understand the theory of tapping? You can end this at any time verbally with your feet, with your hands. You can say tap. You can screen tap. We can just tap when you're uncomfortable. And they're like, okay.
Now sign this.
Now sign
the waivers first. And that conversation is after the waiver.
Right.
Travis just shakes his head and fucking laughs. He's like, just fucking sign the waiver.
Just sign the fucking waiver.
Yeah.
What's your belt anyway right now?
Blue, same.
Blue.
Yeah. I just try to tap people to that Black Rifle logo on the gi. It's
Yeah,
awesome because it gets
fucking-
super sweaty and just drive it into their face hole. People are asking which face hole, whatever one I want to,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
for as long as I want to, unless I'm on the bottom, and then I just try to get out.
Well, thanks, Andy. I appreciate it, buddy.
Steaks. Go pick up some steaks.
Let's go get some
Pick
steaks.
them on the trigger. All right, gents. Thank you again to ExpressVPN for your support of this podcast episode. For the listeners, visit expressvpn.com/clearedhot right now, and you can arm yourself with an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. That's expressvpn.com/clearedhot. Visit expressvpn.com/clearedhot to learn more.